I'm attracted to the dark side of greatness, or the dark side of like the tugs of identity and love. And the gap between a hero and a villain is it's very similar to like the gap between winning and losing, and greatness to, be good to great. Like that gap is so much closer than people think. And it's very small, fundamental details that separate you. That's the space that I like to like dive into a lot.
What is it? The saying, you live long enough to be the hero, you die the villain or something?
Dark Knight.
Yeah,
Dark Knight.
You die a hero or live long enough to be the villain. I mean, that's about as true as you can get.
Welcome to Games with Names. I'm Julian Edelman. They're Jack and Kyler. And we are on a mission to find the greatest game of all time. On today's episode, we are covering Game 1 of the 2022 NBA season, Sixers versus Celtics, with West Virginia legend and New England native, NBA champion and movie buff, Coach Joe Mazzulla. And we get into talking Joe's first game as an NBA head coach.
Just don't make this about your first game. Make this about how we can win the game.
Coach also shows us a tattoo that has never been shown.
This is the first time, so I have this.
Wow. And what makes Boston such a great sports town?
When I see people wearing Celtic gear and they don't see me, I get goosebumps.
And then we get into talking about what it's like crossing paths with other pro athletes in this week's Chill Zone presented by Coors Light. You gotta stick around to the very end. Let's go. Games with Names, a production of iHeartRadio. Special announcement. I repeat, we have a special announcement. We got plans on August 28th.
You got plans on August 28th?
No, they have plans on August 28th.
We all have plans.
Because we are doing another live show.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Not just Games with Names, Dudes on Dudes. Gronk's going to be there.
We don't have a name yet. Well, regardless, we do have a place.
Dudes with Games. Where is the place?
We have a place.
Yeah.
MGM Music Hall at Fenway in Boston.
One night only.
One night only.
One show.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Scary.
In Fenway. You basically, I think you could take a door to. We're definitely going to. Tickets are on sale today at Ticketmaster.com. Use the promo code Nuthouse. If you're listening, they're live at 10 a.m. If you're watching this on YouTube, they are live right now.
Promo code Nuthouse. Nuthouse. It's going to be awesome. We learned a lot from last year.
I like to call it Nuthouse.
Nuthouse.
Nuthouse?
Nuthouse.
I don't know. Let's get back to Joe Mazzulla. October 18th, 2022, TD Garden, Boston, Massachusetts.
Two hope-filled campaigns kick off on the parquet.
The Mazzulla era is underway. This one's for Bill Russell.
All right.
Now, how many times do you think about the Roman Empire a week? This is like a masculinity thing because it's going around on the internet.
What is?
Like men, if you're such a masculine man, you probably think of like the Roman Empire like 5 times a week.
Really? That's on the.
I think about it at least once a day.
I don't want to come off as dark, but I think there's a lot of lightness in the dark. But I think a lot about the duality of like life and death and the decisions that you make and the balance of, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire and how the rise and fall of dynasties, organizations, yourself, your family, like all those spaces of like that go into. I think about that probably 30 times a day, of just the duality of competition and what that means and your own mortality and how to play your part in that and going after something. And, a lot of times when people pick a dream or pick a goal to go after, they only look at the positive side of that. They don't look at like the dark side of going after a goal.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go after a goal, there's probably just as much, if not more, dark side as there is light side, and that's what comes with it. So I think about that space probably all the time.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
My dad used to say, goals without actions are just fucking dreams.
Yeah. But at the same time,
the actions sometimes are the dark things that you have to do. The sacrifice, the accountability, the shit that you have to run through to get to the top, that you have to experience the losing to get to where you have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, the failure, because
the pain.
You feel like life is all about failure. There's like 5 or 6 times where you don't fail. You just hoping that those 5 or 6 times are badass.
Yeah, no question. Life really is just a bunch of failures used to try to get as many successes as you can.
Man, we're getting fucking deep. Let's welcome our guest. We have a very special guest. No, we got to welcome a very special guest today here in the Nuthouse Boston edition to talk about Game 1, 2022-2023 NBA season. 76ers versus the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of Coach Mazzulla's coaching career. In one sentence, don't get too in depth. We'll dive into the game. In one sentence, why this game?
It's the Celtics. And, it was the beginning of a journey that, we're now 3 years into. And, I think you can never stop learning, but when it's your first game and it's your first opportunity and you look back 3 years from now in the journey that you're on, it's always good to go back and kind of see like, man, that's what I was thinking in that moment and kind of where you're at now,
Yeah, is this the greatest game of all time?
No, definitely not.
No, all right. Well,
I hope the greatest game of all time hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go. That's a great answer.
But hey, thanks for talking to the team this year, and I'm happy to be here. So I appreciate the growth of our relationship.
I'm hoping my words meant something.
Maybe not.
It didn't work, Coach. It didn't work.
It didn't work. So I got a list.
Fucking work. So maybe don't call me next year. I won't ever come talk to the team again.
I got a list of guest speakers that aren't welcome back for next year.
And I guess I'm on there.
On the no-fly list, bro.
A no-fly list. Jesus, I feel like a soft now. Coach, talk to us about the offseason. How's it going so far?
I think your buddy's hoodie when I walked in today said it best. Happily miserable.
Happily miserable.
That's how it's going.
Yeah, we got to bring that. We got to get you a happily miserable hoodie.
It's a beautiful expression and a very honest. And
what does it mean to you?
I think it's the space. It's the space of where people are trying to live, and I don't think you can have one without the other, and I don't think you can have too much of one. And so I think it's a balance of like, you're in a space right now. We didn't achieve our goal. Our goal is to win a championship every single year. We have a responsibility and an ownership, to the city, to the organization, really to ourselves in the competitive arena to try and do that every year. And you didn't do it. And so, but at the same time, there were a lot of positive things that came out of the season, as a team, as individuals. And there's a lot of stuff that comes out of the positive, in your family and in your life. And so you have to be able to accept both of those things. And, I think the scariest thing is like if you plan on coaching or playing for a long time, if you look at the ratio outside of like John Wooden, Red Auerbach, and Phil Jackson, the ratio of like successes to failures weighs heavier on the failure side if you count not winning a championship as a failure. And so that space of happily miserable is somewhere where you got to be extremely comfortable because I think that's where you grow the most,
Yeah.
That's how the offseason's going.
That's how now you guys are faced with some adversity. I used to hear every last meeting of the season, Bill would say, that's the last time this team will be together. Yeah. Next year, there's going to be new coaches. Next year, there's going to be new players. Next year, there's going to be guys that leave. There's going to be guys that come. How do you deal with an adversity like losing JT and then going into another season, not knowing what your team's going to be? How do you deal with these types of things as a coach mentally?
I think at the end of the day, like you sign up for the journey. I don't think you sign up for the short-term approach to 1 year. If that was the case, then I would have retired after year 2, and so I think you sign up for the journey and you don't sign up for just one person's journey. I think you take on the journey of everybody, in the organization, all of your players, all of your coaches, all of your staff members. You're for however long you're together, you're on this journey. And there's different chapters in it, right? And each chapter has a different heading, has a different theme, has a different outlook, but it never gets, it doesn't get stopped written, and I think that's how you have to look at it is, one chapter is over, the next chapter begins. And, you have to take on, other people's journeys, to build those relationships and to go after stuff together. And so that's kind of how we look at it.
Coach, you have such in-depth answers. Like we were talking before the show and you're always very deep. Do you read a lot?
Uh,
How the fuck do you know all this shit? You're fucking younger than me.
you 39?
I'm 39.
I mean, so a couple of my favorite books are probably some of yours. Oh, that's great.
Or on the road.
I think you have to. I think the most important thing is I've been blessed to have great people, great family, great opportunities. But I think you got to fight for perspective, because if you don't, you could lose yourself. And that's my biggest fear in life, is losing myself amongst all this worldly stuff that we're going after, which is important to go after. But like Ecclesiastes is my favorite book.
No, that's not one of my football guy. Not a big reader. Audiobook guy. Got to listen. Can't read very well.
Proverbs,
as you
favorite
just
book.
saw.
Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Psalms, the Book of Wisdoms. Like I think, we were talking about the history of Israel and Rome. I think you just have to understand everything that came before you, and you have to understand what's possible to come after you. And so I think you have to fight for that perspective. It's so easy to just get caught up in your own world and think what happened to me is either the greatest thing or the worst thing.
Now, what you just said there, you said you have to know what came before you. Do you see coaching these newer players that they struggle with seeing and learning from the past? Because, every older generation that leaves a locker room and welcomes a new generation into a locker room is like, man, I feel like every old guy says, man, they don't fight like they used to. Oh man, they don't understand the history like they used to. And now that I'm the old guy, and when I was the old guy in the locker room, I say the same thing. Do you see it's getting different? Or
I think that comes from the generation being attached to its identity and not being able to let it go, right? Like you see it all the time when like it happens to me. Like I was a shit player. Like I was an average basketball player at best. I just kind of tried hard. But the older you get, people's memories focus on certain things. And so I think you end up becoming better than what you once were at the time, because everybody always wants to remember that emotional good thing. And that like that attachment to the identity. And so like the older you get, the better you were. You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy. I'm the complete opposite.
I am personally too.
Yeah, like
the older I get, the more I laugh at how bad I actually was.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
I don't think, like when people come up to me all the time and say, man, how'd you make that catch in that Super Bowl? I go, I think about the third down that I dropped coming out of the fucking halftime.
Same.
Being the rah-rah guy saying it's going to be a hell of a fucking story. And then our defense goes 3 and out. I get a good look. I get the guy, bop him, drop the ball. That's what I think. I think of the shit.
But I think most, and it's probably a little bit of a generalization, are attached to the identity of what they once were. And so I think that's where we never did this stuff, or and I think that's part of our responsibility. Your responsibility in the present moment is to give it everything you have, and then when it's over, you're just forgotten about. Like I think that's just kind of.
I think it also goes to that dream thing that we were just talking about. A lot of these guys, a lot of people. Like you said, we are given information now. Everyone can see and experience what other people experience. Some people forget about their own journey and forget about, hey, let's make our own experience and live off of that.
Yeah. They also forget about like one of the things I like to do as a exercise is, I think everyone studies successes, but I always go back and look at the best players and the best coaches and all the mistakes that they made. Because it's humbling, because like one, they were all better than, like all the coaches in the past are better than I am, and all the players in the past were great players, but you got to look at all the mistakes that were made, and it's a balance. And so a healthy exercise is to go back and be like, okay, why did this team blow this lead in the 95 NBA finals in a game, or like what adjustment was made there. And so I think you have to find the balance of like, you want to look at all the best things that coaches did, but you also got to look at, it's easy to forget all those things, that the mistakes that were made before your time. And so I try to do both of those. You have to study the successes, but you also got to study the failures, because it gives you a perspective.
1000%. A mistake is great because it's a learning experience. You just can't make that mistake twice.
Yeah.
Right?
You can try not to, but you're gonna make a different one.
But you're gonna make a different one.
Yeah.
A different one is okay. You just can't, like, that's what I always told young players. You're going to make mistakes. Just don't make the same one twice.
Yeah. But make a different one.
Make a different one, but you'll learn from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, you have such a learning mindset. You grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. You're a
Johnston,
local,
but on the
Johnston border, Pawtucket, right over there. We're in fucking roadie. We're a roadie. Okay. We're a roadie. Now, where did this love of learning come from? Your dad was a basketball coach. Is that where this all came from? What's a young Coach Mazzulla like?
Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't as much of a growth mindset until I graduated from college. I mean, I was probably very the opposite in college, but I was very blessed. I always had, my parents were there for me in different ways. My mom was the academic side, making sure I did my homework. My dad was like the mindset side. But I always had great coaches. Like I never had a negative coaching experience. And I think that's huge for a kid, trying to get into athletics is like, I can remember, 95, if not 100% of my coaches' names at every level. I can remember some of the practice plans, what they taught me, and I just never had a negative experience. And so as I started to get older, I realized what they were teaching me was so much bigger than just basketball, but it was all based on the fundamentals. And so I think when I got into playing, I was probably more results oriented and caught up in my own identity and trying to make a name for yourself. And after that, when I was like forced, when the game was taken from me, and I was like forced to decide, okay, like where am I going? You can't play, and so where is my identity going to be in? I started to go back to those moments of coaching and reflecting on how I never had negative experiences as a coach and all the times with your teammates. And it's like, the best way to stay in the game if you can't play is to be a part of that and to give that back to the people that are coming after you. And so I think that's kind of where it's come from is like, here are the moments. I'm only here because of the people around me, and can I be, one person that helps, others get to that,
Now, you never had a bad coach. What makes a great coach then?
I mean, at every level, I tell you, my CYO coach at St. Philip's, we practiced, I think 3-4 days a week from 5:30 to 8, and it was it was just drudgery.
Yeah.
We did the same thing every single practice, ran the same plays. But Mike and Jeff did an amazing job at teaching us the fundamentals and putting us in position to win. And like, same thing with my AAU coaches, Coach Vital and those group of guys. Like to me, they're honest with you. They're in it for the right reasons. They're in it to see kids get better. They're honest with you, whether you're good or whether you suck. I remember I had a bad game in AAU, and my AAU coach came up to me and was like, "Man, you suck today." He's like, "But, the guy you went against just kicked your ass. But, he's going to make it one day, and so are you." And so they're able to be honest with you, but also give you, the encouragement or the perspective that you need to go forward. And I think they never let you settle being yourself. I think they hold you accountable to the person that you say you want to be, or the person that they think you can become. And that's a space that many people aren't willing to go to. So I think that's kind of at any level, that's what the coaches are.
Have you noticed coaching styles evolve these days compared to what we used to go through?
I mean, everything matches the times, and I think you always have to evolve. I think there's moments. I think it's more about what the personality that you have, right? And I think as we get into this game, looking at that as I'm standing on the sidelines, even that moment, I'm like, okay, who am I going to be as a coach? Who am I? What am I going to be like? What's my identity? How are we going to go about things as a team, as a staff? How am I going to handle things individually? And so I think it's more like personality based, where as long as you can become an authentic to who you are as a leader, people will respect that and they'll go with it. And it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect all the time, but I just think it's constantly evolving because people are different and personalities are different.
What's your identity as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's based off of the players that I have. I think to be a great coach, you have to have great players. You have to have a group of players that allow you to be yourself. And I think you have to create a space where you allow your players to be yourself. And so I think that identity, where I think it is, being authentic to who I am. I'm not afraid to say, like, here's where I suck. Here's where I'm, pretty good. Here's where I need you guys to fill in for me. And here's how we could do it together. So I think it's the space of like authenticity. And then your mindset, right? I think everything comes down to your mindset, how you approach things, how do you have a certain perspective on that? And then, can you be great tactically? Like, can you find ways to be great from a tactical standpoint, to outthink your opponents and to put yourself in position to win?
Yeah.
But I suck at a lot of things,
I mean, we all do.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you pulled from growing up with a dad as a head coach? Because my dad was a coach, and there's shit I pulled on how I've never coached, but when you get to become an older player in a locker room, there's kind of that way to communicate with younger guys that comes off as like a coach. Is there anything you pulled from your pops?
I mean, so much. Most of it's illegal now, but there's still a lot of stuff that into it. I think he just wasn't afraid to be himself. He wasn't afraid to be himself. He wasn't afraid to win the moment, however he thought necessary to win that moment. Whether it was basketball, soccer, track, like he was always going to do whatever it took to get the most out of that guy in that moment. And that's something that I could always get better at. I think that's, you're always being challenged of like, how could you be better in this moment? And he was just relentless. Like he was relentless in his mentality, like relentless in his mindset, relentless in his approach towards the fundamentals on and off the court. I think those are the two biggest things.
Now, you grew up in Providence. You grew up a massive Celtics fan?
Yeah. I was a Red Sox fan before Celtics.
So let's hear your sports hierarchy of what your fandom was.
Well, so my uncle Mike, credit to him, he got me into like the history and the study of sports. So he was a huge 49ers fan.
Shout out
huge.
Uncle Mike.
Niners.
And he collected he just collected memorabilia and stuff. And so it started with like these pencils. I don't know if you remember these old pencils of like all the different NFL teams.
Yeah.
So we had one of every team, but I wasn't allowed to use the 49ers one. And then that was his team. And then the Patriots were coming to training camp at Bryant College. That's where my dad went.
Yeah.
And so he would take me to Bryant College for training camp all the time. And so I got these pictures with like a young Adam Vinatieri, because you had to walk that dirt road, from the dorms and everything. So we would stand on that dirt road. Had a ball signed by Vinatieri. Had a ball signed by that whole team. I don't remember that. So it started with like the Patriots in that.
So your Patriots is number one?
It's not a hierarchy as much of it's like this is how it went.
Okay, this time.
And then it went Red Sox because the All-Star game came to Fenway in '99.
And you went.
And I went. So we went.
So what year is that? Is that Sosa? That's McGuire.
I really don't even
was
remember.
putting him in the 90s.
That was, I think Ken Griffey had, I really don't remember much of it, but I think Griffey had a huge game, that All-Star game. So here's the story. So we went up just for the festivities. Like we didn't have tickets to the game. And so we're standing around Fenway, we're going through all this stuff, and then we get into a taxi to go somewhere, and we're in a taxi with Ray Knight. Who scored, I think he scored the winning run in the 88 World Series to beat the Red Sox. So we in there.
Randomly.
Hey,
let me get in taxi.
Yeah.
Let's get one. Ray Knight. Hey, how you doing, dude?
And then like some random person comes up to us and was like, hey, I got one extra ticket to the game. Now you couldn't do this now. So I'm 10 at the time, and we're an hour, 10 minutes away from home. And this stranger comes up and offers us one ticket. And my uncle's like, you got to go. So he sends me into the All-Star game.
How old are you?
I'm 10.
Oh my, solo.
Yeah, sends me into the All-Star game.
What a fucking uncle. That's a cool uncle.
By myself. And he's like, hey, like, I'll meet you right here. I think he called my dad, and my dad drove down, which I don't know what the hell he was going to do. Like, and so I just sat next to these two people in the stands by myself, watched the 99 All-Star game.
10-year-old Mazzulla.
And it had this book that, on the back of the book taught you how to throw all the pitches. And so I was into baseball for a little while, so I would like work on that. And then was the Celtics, because when they drafted, Joe Forte was one of my favorite players to watch from North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then so when they drafted Joe Forte, and I would go to Red Auerbach camp, and so for like 3-4 years, every summer I would spend a week at Red Auerbach camp, stay in the dorms at Brandeis. Coach Auerbach would talk to the team. And so, I just fell in love with Red Auerbach first, and then fell in love with the Celtics. And so that's kind of the trajectory. And then the Bruins, I just like to be. And so they're just fourth by default. But like that's kind of the timeline of like how, Boston sports kind of came into my life.
Wow. What about some of the Boston sports heroes did you like?
I mean, Vinatieri was one.
Vin?
To start, because
he signed your ball.
He signed a ball, and then I was watching the first Super Bowl at my grandmother's house, and he hit it. Was it Panthers was the first one, I think?
No, Rams. Greatest show on turf.
Yeah, so he hit the game winner, I think, on that one.
And that was also the year he hit the snow one.
Yes.
In the Raiders.
And so that, and then the Panthers one was another game winner that he had.
Yeah.
And so he's up there.
Clutch. You like clutch guys.
Yeah, and then I had this plaque of Celtic players of all the greats of the 80s and 90s. And for whatever reason, I liked Robert Parrish. I liked the nickname The Chief. So like I just liked
The Chief.
The Chief. I mean, that was just a cool nickname to have. So from a childhood, remembers that. And then, you got those years in college of when it was like Pedro and Kurt Schilling and like that whole crew.
Bloody Sock,
yes,
Big
like
Poppy.
that was just a huge,
just motherfucking on broad TV.
Yeah, and then Garnett and that era. So like just
You grew up in a great time to
grew
live
up in a
here.
great time.
Great time.
And now I get to
And now
it's like full circle, because the great time that I grew up on as a kid, for however long I'm here, I've been entrusted with this opportunity, ownership, responsibility to like do what was done when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's where like happily miserable comes into place of like, I think when you have responsibility, you have to take on the other side of responsibility, which is like the weight that carries. Like that's never going to go away. And so like, it's almost like I'm using everything from my childhood to spur this opportunity that, you know, we have as an organization to like bring that back. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's tough, which is, that's what you want.
It is tough, you know, and you know, you feel like you have this responsibility because of what you experienced as a kid being part of this community. Now, do you have relationships with other coaches? Do you talk with Rabes at all?
Talk with, you know, Coach Mayo was great. Rabes has been great, just his perspective. You know, Alex Cora is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, he's been around, he's seen it. I haven't tapped into the Bruins or the Revolution like I need to. But I think it's a fraternity that you have to have, right? Because Coach Belichick's been great. Like, especially my first year, he was great. Right, but I think
you came to our facility. I remember seeing you there.
And he came to a couple games, and then, you know, we talked a lot about just the perspective and how you go about things. But like, to me, it's just a fraternity that you have because we're all going after the same thing, and we're all carrying, you know, the responsibility and the weight of bringing what the city deserves and there. So yeah, I think it's a huge connection to have that.
It's so crazy that like this is like the perfect pro sports city.
It is. Yeah,
like
it has everything.
Everything. Like it's not a college area. I mean, we have hella good colleges, but it ain't college sport area. It's not fall, spring, summer. It's football season, baseball season, basketball season, hockey season. That's the only way they live out here.
That's it.
It's crazy. You know, I grew up in the Bay Area, and we had the Niners, we had the Giants, the Sharks just came out. So, but it wasn't the same. They didn't have four. You know,
well, I think here in Boston, there's no distractions like it. You know, each sport is like a foundation of like a family.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, I get goosebumps. When I see people wearing Celtic gear and they don't see me, I get goosebumps. Because it's like, I know they're wearing that with like a sense of pride, and there's a story behind why they're a Celtic fan. There's a story behind, like, it's almost passed down from their dad or, you know, their grandfather, or like, you know, so like that gives me like the greatest thrill and a sense of chills when I see that, you know?
Yeah. Now what's young Coach Mazzulla's favorite place on Federal Hill?
Panavino.
Yeah.
I think I worked there for like 2 days.
What happened?
I'm not a big manual labor guy. And so I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't do this. I think you had to like, if I remember, you had to ask for like 3 days. Now, I guess the people that like, now I'm that guy because I always want sparkling water instead of distilled. But you had to ask for like 3 different waters did you want?
Yeah,
and like
still flat, sparkling.
Yeah. And then like the utensils had to be like 3 fingertips from the thing. And I was like, I'm just going to go to the gym.
Tight ship, baby. They run a tight ship over in the hill. Did you ever go to Alforno's?
Maybe once when I was a kid, but like, I don't remember it as much.
Did you ever go to Sienna's?
No.
That was over there on the hill. We used to go there. We weren't allowed to go to Federal. Or we weren't really allowed to go to Providence. Coach didn't want us there.
And there's a lot of great restaurants in Rhode Island. Caserta's Pizza is obviously a big one.
Yeah.
Rosamia's Pizza in Johnston is phenomenal.
I got it. What's it called? Rosamia?
Rosamia. You got to find it. It's like the true Sicilian pizza, like nice, thick, square slices.
What kind of sauce? Is it a sweet sauce?
Or
is
no.
it not too sweet?
It has like it's got like pepperoni and the peppers on there and like built underneath the cheese. We get that a lot with my grandmother.
Now, does your grandma make like a hell of a like red sauce and shit?
Have you seen Nona's on Netflix?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's on fire.
Yeah, great movie.
But it's fun, right?
Yeah, but I couldn't remember if my grandmother called her sauce or gravy.
Gravy.
But she made a hell of a, you know, a sauce or a gravy.
You know, I always want to experience that Italian East Coast grandma meal.
That was us.
Every Sunday?
I mean, every night, like, cause she lived in the same house with my dad. I think there was 9 brothers and sisters combined, but you never knew who was coming over. So she would make dinner every night, and it was just an open door. So like whoever came in came. You know, if you got there late, you didn't eat. You know, and so, but on Sundays we would have like you know, a big ordeal. Like all my aunts would cook, my grandmother would cook. It was I mean, it was just like the movie. So it was cool. It was cool to kind of relive that. I watched that the other night with my wife.
Now, we got bread for everything, right? Bread has to be bread. I've learned that in the Italian house, you got to have a piece of bread in your hand at all time for the sauce, the fucking noodles.
You gotta dip the bread in the sauce. You can't let the sauce go to waste. I don't eat as much bread anymore.
You can't, coach.
I know. I mean, I'm getting old and
not getting old, but I've heard the interviews. You got to stay in shape so you can understand the perspective that the players are in, right?
I think that's important. I think that's a way to be empathetic for what those guys have to go through.
Hell yeah.
But I lost touch. I don't do the coffee or after dinner. I can't do that. I'll never go to sleep.
I can't.
No.
I'm sensitive to that stuff too.
I went through a Sambuca phase though.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like
Little
that.
tea?
No.
What is it? Oh, is that the alcohol?
Yeah.
The digesti?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, digestivo.
Is it digesti? What else is Zambuca? And then there's another one.
There's a limoncello, which is too
Limoncello.
sweet, but there's an Amaro that's phenomenal. Like the Amaros are great.
I used to drink those a little bit. They always say it makes your stomach feel better. I felt like it made me drunker.
I think both can be true.
Also a side effect.
You ever plan the perfect pool day and then the clouds roll in and block the sun? Yeah, that'll get you worked up. That's when I choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Last weekend, we turned a rained out BBQ into a living room pool tournament. Coolers stocked, vibes stayed high. The first cold sip tasted like 8-ball corner pocket. You know when those mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. That's mountain cold refreshment, baby. Cold lagered, cold filtered, cold packaged. Basically the hat trick of chill. So when life throws you a curveball, don't sweat it. Make the most of the times you choose chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/GWN. That's CoorsLight.com/GWN. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado beer. Celebrate responsibly. Coach, you played at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Went to a Final Four.
Yeah.
Explain this. Like, how was that experience? You got to play in a fucking Final Four. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I think it went by so fast.
It does.
It went by so fast that the week leading up to it went by really fast. First, like college, I had two great coaches. I started out with Coach Beeline, who was great, and then I went to Coach Huggins, who was phenomenal. And then we just had great teammates. Like, and that year went to the Final Four. It kind of all came together. But that was when I realized that, like, man, winning is not as fun as people think it is. Like, it wasn't an easy year. Like, we were in top 10 most of the year. I think we finished 31-9 or something like that. But
31-7, yeah.
31-7, but it never felt like that. It felt like we were 500 the whole year.
Yeah.
And that prepared me for kind of where we're at now and the healthier approach to, like, nothing is ever going to be good enough when you have a responsibility to greatness. And so, like, I just remember, like, practices being miserable. Like, it was like, man, this responsibility to winning goes beyond the joys of winning, and you have to fight for the perspective, but you also have to take on. That was the biggest thing I learned. Like, we lost the game on New Year's Eve to Purdue, and we got smacked, and you would have thought the season was over. And yet I think we were, like, still top 10. And so it was a great balance of learning, what comes with success and how you have to handle that throughout the season. And, we had great guys that were able to just bring us there.
Now, who would bring that mindset of mediocrity, even though you guys were above you guys were fucking 31-7? Was that Bob Huggins?
Oh, yeah.
How was it playing for him? He's a ledge.
He is a legend. Very misunderstood guy, but he was the best. I mean, he reminded me of my father, but he was the best to play for.
How did he remind you of your father?
Just no nonsense. Had an innate ability to, like, the fuck you and I love you became synonymous, and you couldn't tell which one was which.
Yeah.
That's the best way to describe it. Like, sometimes when it was fuck you, I was hearing I love you, and sometimes when I was hearing I love you, I was hearing fuck you. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It's bad that I know and understand that.
And so, like, my dad and Coach Hugs were, like, the same there, where it was like, I just couldn't tell what it was that day, but you knew it was to get the best out of you. That was the only thing he cared about, was, like, getting the best out of you. And he'll go to any measure possible to get the best out of you. There was no restrictions towards that. But the best thing he did was, when the game or the practice was over, he never brought that
energy.
He never brought that energy from what he was doing on the sideline to what you were doing off the court.
I mean,
and I think that's a huge balance for a coach.
Yeah, people don't. What goes on in a game is different than that. I think that's what the good coaches and players' relationships. Like I remember there's a few times, with my Chatty O'Shea, my receiver coach, we're fucking each other up, on the sideline. After the game, we get the win. All right, man. That's just how it goes in battle.
Yeah, that's it. But I think
you got to be able to take the cap off, though.
You have to be able to, and I think that's the biggest thing I learned from him was he was able to take the cap off more times than not. Of like, how I hold you accountable on it's because I love you, but then this love kind of looks different when you're off the floor, and he was amazing at that.
Yeah,
amazing.
Now I heard this story.
Oh no.
About what is it? The ultimate fucking the ultimate alpha challenge with your dad.
Yeah.
Well, it struck me because
where'd you hear that?
I heard it. I think Barstool maybe.
Oh yeah.
And it struck me because you guys went to a baseball field and you had to get out.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation. It was just I was doing batting practice with my dad, and I was dipping my shoulder. I think I was 13, and I finally at that age was like trying to bow up, and he was brushing me off the plate.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's
I got
awesome.
mad. And this is before a game. This is at like 4:30. You get a little BP before a game. Then we go to the game. And fucking, I got sick of it. He threw at me. I threw the bat down, and I charged him out on my dad. He 1-2'd me, put me on the ground.
Frank.
I ended up going to the game with the bloody jersey.
Yeah.
People were asking me, I was like, but man, batting practice didn't go well.
Now look at you.
Now look at you. But like, is that the pulling the best out of you?
So I think I remember this story correctly. Our soccer game got canceled. It was raining, and he was probably pissed that he had to come all the way out to Warwick to pick me up. And he was giving my friend a ride home. Mark, good friend of mine. He's on the soccer team, and he had to be pissed because it was a tough place to get to. It was right near the airport.
Yeah.
And
TD
so,
Green? TF Green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on the way to dropping Mark off at his house, I'm being, he's mad. I'm being even more mad. I'm showing off in front of, my friend here. And, he was just like, okay, I'm going to take care of you after we drop this kid off. And so, the kid's house is on the right. You come out, you take a right, you go down the main road, you take a left, and then off the main road, there's this baseball field, and it's raining, and he's just like, he's had enough. I'm just being a fucking dick. And he's just like, winner take all. And we go into this, we go into the batting cage of the field, and he's just like, give me your best shot. And I think I have a chance.
Yeah.
I really thought I had a chance. But at first I was like, okay, how am I going to go out this? So I because of the rain, I picked up some dirt and tried to throw it in his face and at the same time kick him in the nuts.
Oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, oldest trick in the book.
Try it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they taught us that trick. They taught us the trick.
Catches my heel, leg sweeps me, mounts me, and just starts fucking just wailing on me.
Yeah.
By that time, we're late to grandma's dinner. And I'll never forget, he just looked at me and he goes, you don't fucking say a word. Like nothing happened. And so I walk into my grandmother's house with just like a wet, beaten dog. And I just eat my meal as if like I was just dead.
It humbled you though.
But it did. It did.
I didn't go back to my dad ever again.
I never tried that again. Never tried that again.
Never tried it again.
Yeah.
You felt the strength that you never felt before.
But I felt it was important to try it.
You had to. You got to
I mean,
test the limits.
Who are you if you don't try it?
Hey, he had me down. I was over here trying to get him and shit. I remember. He's like, are you done yet? Oh fuck it. I heard that story. I cried. I was like, thank
idiot.
God there was other crazy fucking people out there.
Yeah.
Because I remember people used to drive by the fucking field when me and my dad were having batting practice and he'd be like, oh, old man Edelman is wailing on his kid again.
Bad news, Edelman.
Today's his birthday, actually. He passed, but today's his birthday.
Happy birthday,
Man,
Pops.
happy birthday,
Yeah,
Pops.
yeah.
Happy birthday, R.I.P.,
Heck yeah.
man.
Man, he gave me so many. I mean, I remember like I used to have to kneel on rice when I got in trouble. And that hurt. Like I have to like sit in the corner and like kneel on rice.
That's a Catholic shit.
But like he brought something out of you that like to this day like is necessary to take on whatever it is we're taking on right now. So like that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I sucked one game and this dude just beat the hell out of me. I think I fouled out and he like went over to my coach and was like, I'll give him a ride home today.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm good. I'll take the bus. Nah, I'm gonna give him a ride home.
You know what? And my dad used to coach me. And everyone would be like, "Oh man, your dad's a coach." I was like, "Yeah, right. I got to go home with him."
No question.
No. What's your favorite memory about your dad, though, man?
My favorite memory about my dad was how he coached my cousin. So my cousin, she was one of the best players in Rhode Island. I used to go to all her games and all her practices, and he would make her cry every day.
Yeah.
Whether it was a game, whether it was a practice, like it was his goal to make her cry. That's my favorite memory
Because she needed it.
She needed it. She loved it, but it was also like to watch him. He wasn't just coaching me that way. He coached everybody that way. And as I got a little bit older, the relationship that Chelsea and him had was kind of like I was seeing what he was doing with me in real time because she was older than me. And so I've always appreciated how he did that. And I mean, all the time.
Yeah.
And then in 8th grade, he coached my 8th grade team at St. Mary's. And let's just say he had a couple run-ins with, faculty on coaching me a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But that was a different generation.
But then he transitioned into like becoming more like when I got to college, he wasn't like that.
No, because you became a man.
He became, yeah. Like
And
when I got
it's-
to college, he was the opposite. Like he was just a supporting figure. He was like, he did the exact opposite. It was like, I did my time, and he let me kind of grow into who I was at the time.
It's crazy. That's exactly how it was with me.
Yeah.
Because once you surpassed their not like their knowledge, but once they like let you out, it was like, now we're here to support.
Yeah. So they weren't like overbearing. He was
No.
doing it for a clear purpose.
Yes.
I would have not have appreciated it if he kept it going in college. He wasn't making it about him.
Yeah.
He was making it about me, and he was able to release that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. Let's go into a segment where we go back into time when the game took place and we go over pop culture. This game took place October 18th, 2022. Number one movie, Halloween Ends. Didn't see it. You see it, Coach?
Nope. Never heard of it.
It's that one of the Halloweens.
It's when Halloween ends.
Yeah.
I'm not a big,
Not a big
I don't like Halloween.
Scary movie.
I'm with you, Coach.
Yeah.
My-
Not a big Halloween.
I never liked Halloween until like I have a little girl and she we're already talking about costumes. Number one song, Bad Habits. Steve Lacy, never heard of that.
Never heard of it.
NBA champions, Denver Nuggets with Joker. Joel Embiid was the MVP. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Patrick was the MVP. First time that was done. MVP wins the Super Bowl in a long time,
True.
I believe.
Ah.
Astros win 2022 World Series against Philly. Brock Purdy makes his NFL debut. What's the best Boston movie of all time, Coach? I know you love The Town, but is that your favorite?
It's between The Town and The Departed, I'd say.
Yeah. Depends on what kind of relief you need. Do you
I
want?
don't know what kind of mood you're in. I mean, I grew up on The Departed, but The Town, as I got older, and the reason why I kind of resonate a little bit more with The Town than The Departed is the identity and the love factor. That like you're in this space. Like I feel like kind of, this area and kind of how I grew up of like, and even people in general, not necessarily to an area, but it's like you don't like the person you are, but you do, and you're trying to be something that you want to be something more, but like who you are is bringing you down, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I feel like The Town portrays so much more than violence, where it shows an identity crisis of like, this area made me, but I'm looking for more, and the great things about me are from this area, but also the tough things about me are from this area. And how do you evolve as a person? And, living in a space of falling in love with someone, but also robbing banks at the same time is like, there's nothing more of a duality or approach to that. And so it just has a little bit more than The Departed, of where like it's an action and it's a great movie. Like this is like, it shows more of like life, of like, you're trying to figure out your identity, but you have these things tugging with you at all times, but you want to be a better person. And oh, by the way, I love you, but I'm also using you because you're getting interrogated by the FBI. What's more,
Yeah, it's darker.
Yeah,
It's realer.
I'm attracted to,
like The Departed's comic. There's some comedy relief with, Jack and how he does things. There's a little funniness to it.
Yeah.
The other one, Town, and there ain't that shit feels real.
It's just dark. Yeah, I agree with you. And like I'm not you saying it as like saying it, but like I'm attracted to the dark side of greatness, or the dark side of like the tugs of identity and love and like
Lead Your Shadows. You part of the Batman people.
I mean,
Or Legend,
that
what is it?
trilogy is by far the best trilogy.
That is by far.
By far.
Yeah.
I mean, The Dark Knight is
Dark. You know what I loved? I loved Batman Begins because I was a huge Batman kid when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And to see the origin of where it all came from, like I was like, oh my God, that's how they got the Batcave. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's where he got his fucking moves. He went to China or Japan, wherever he went. Like that was like, and then the Dark Knight was crazy. And then Bane came. And
See, I think the Batman Begins is third. I think it's Dark Knight Rises, then Batman Begins.
Oh, I think I'll go Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. It got a little long at the last one.
Yeah. But the space I love is like villains, like the movies, and like these are like the themes that I always think about of like there really isn't much difference between the hero and the villain, right? And I think that's the space of why the villain gets so frustrated is like the self-righteousness of the hero thinking he's better than someone else because he's quote unquote trying to do the right thing, And so they're more similar than you think.
Are you a Star Wars fan?
I'm not.
Because I have that same argument with, the dark side and having the Force.
Yeah.
I think when you're, what are they called?
Sith.
A Sith. When you're a Sith, all they are people that have the Force that make decision through emotion.
Yeah.
When you're a Jedi, you're making decision emotionalist. So it's more peaceful, but why are we getting mad at a person that's making an emotional decision? Because we all do that.
Yeah, I know. The spaces, but the gap between a hero and a villain is much. It's very similar to like the gap between winning and losing, and greatness to, be good to great. Like that gap is so much closer than people think, and it's very small fundamental details that separate you. And that's the space that I like to like dive into a lot.
What is it? The saying, you live long enough for the hero, you die the villain or something?
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
You die a hero or live long enough to be the villain. I mean, that's about as true as you can get.
It is. Now, who's your villain? Who's the villain?
The Joker.
You're the Joker.
Yeah.
That's you guy. That's who
that's my guy. Like
The Heath Ledger version?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
This
heard
is the first time. I mean, so I have this. I mean, I got this.
So why are you so serious? Yeah.
For him.
Wow.
Because of like that perfect balance of like, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
and he goes into like telling the story as to like how he got to that point, But it's like, it's amazing how like if you look at the Batman and the Joker, it's like the Joker had no rules, but he really just wanted honesty, but he just went to the wrong depths to try and get that honesty. Meanwhile, Batman was like, I'm doing this for all the right reasons, when in reality, like, was he?
Yeah.
And they're not much different.
They're not. You need to do a movie podcast. That's what you should do on your spare time. I was going to ask you, what do you do on your spare time? But
probably need to get better at my job first.
Fucking, that's a coach right there. That's a coach right there. What are we watching? Anything like when we have any downtime right now?
So I try to watch. So during the playoffs, I was watching the Bin Laden documentary.
I watched that too. That was pretty crazy.
I mean, they should. So how they have like, have what's that thing called? Where you like escape rooms?
Yeah.
We should start a business where you have like situation rooms. Ooh. And like you can sign up and go in and like reenact different things. Like, hey, what are you doing tonight? We're gonna grab dinner and then we're gonna go reenact the Bin Laden raid.
That'd be a sick first date idea.
You know what I mean? Like I think the escape room's just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what are you doing tonight? We're gonna simulate.
They have those. You go out to like the West Coast, you can go deal with those. Like they teach you how to, like the John Wick guy that teaches you gun and like.
But I'm talking like down here on like the main road. I'm not saying like you gotta go out. I'm saying like you can find an escape room anywhere.
Like at a billiard spot.
Yeah, like tonight we're going to reenact.
Saw 4.
No, yeah, maybe. I mean, talk about morality. But tonight we're going to reenact like negotiation tactics. Like, hey, you're going to get, after dinner, you're going to be kidnapped, and I gotta use my negotiation tactics to like get you back. Like
more strategy than
yeah. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a fucking
that's
coach.
crazy.
He just wants some situation.
So I whatever I watch, I try to tie into like how you can, another great one is so we should think more about that business.
Dude, right. I'm into it. I like
this.
Boardroom, screen.
Yeah.
Someone comes in.
You know what my favorite movies is?
What?
The Game.
Was that Michael Douglas? Yeah.
Where he hires the people to put himself in that situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he wants excitement.
Rehearsal.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm just planning this night. I like this fun Friday night.
I mean, escape rooms are just the beginning.
Oh, yeah. That's child's play. Come on now.
I mean, that is. I mean, that's over. I mean, that's boring.
Trying to go PF Chang's and maybe a little waterboarding afterwards.
So Belichick told me a story about he brought in a guy.
Yeah, we used to have
I don't know if we're supposed to talk about this on air.
Yeah,
but,
we tried it. There was a select few.
but didn't someone try?
Yeah, we did.
Waterboarding?
Because there's a few of us.
Enhanced interrogation techniques?
Who did?
Well, I can't. I don't want to put it on name on blast, but like we used to have a bunch of Navy SEALs that would come in and train with us, teach us hand combat for line of scrimmage shit.
Yeah.
And a couple bold guys were like, "Hey, man, we want to try this. We want to get waterboarded."
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's pretty weird.
Yeah. Did you?
No, I didn't.
Did the whole team watch?
I'm surprised by that.
Well, I was out. It was a linebacker group that hung out with them the most.
Okay.
But I wasn't scared of it. They were doing it.
Sounds like you were a little scared of it to me.
Not really. I honestly don't see how it would be that weird. If you just put a fucking towel over your face and you pour water on. And if I know they're not going to kill me, I'm not scared.
Yeah, but do you know that they're not going to kill you? I mean, I guess you do.
Yeah, I mean, they're pros. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guantanamo Bay, those guys have done that millions of times.
Christ. Oh my God.
I don't know if we're allowed to say
I
that.
opened up a can of worms. I'm sorry.
Jesus.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking waterboarding.
Yeah, sorry. I took it to
I was
another
thinking
level.
more like
Strategy.
tactical. Like
I'm sorry, coach.
Yeah, they've
You got to try it. You got to drown yourself.
they kidnapped the president's daughter, and now you got to like.
but you, your wife, and your kids. Like now you're teaching your kids. Like now you have like a different
your
level
wife,
of,
and your kid.
You have a different level of trust of like, hey, like my oldest. Hey, I'm gonna go in first. You get my back. You check the corner. Like you work on those things. Like I think those are great. Not only team, but like those are just great, dynamic building things.
Honestly.
Hey, Lily,
military
Dungeons
Go
and
out there, be a
Dragons.
distraction. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go this way. You go that way, Lily. All right.
Hey, start him young, baby.
Start him.
I
young.
like it.
I'm really, because of how deep you are. What's on your pregame playlist? Because are you like? Because I'm an instrumental guy.
So
Hans Zimmer,
we
baby.
listen to music every game, and I don't sit in my own office. I sit in the assistants room, and we all hang out together, and like, just we kind of meet all the time. And so Matt Reynolds, your boy,
Yeah.
great guy, great coach. He takes turns. Each guy gets to pick their own playlist, and so it just rotates throughout the entire season.
Rotating the aux. What's on yours?
Well, when we went down, it got pretty dark. There's we had Ready to Die, Biggie, Ain't No Sunshine, DMX, Feel It in the Air, Phil Collins, and DMX's redo of that. Somebody's Gotta Die Tonight. Pearls by Sade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you gotta smooth it out.
I like
yeah,
this.
it's still a little. Pearls is a little dark though.
Yeah.
It's in there. Got some worship songs on there just to kind of bring you back so that you don't, you got to keep the balance a little bit. Every song I listen to, I ask, can I come out to this for a UFC championship fight?
That's a good test.
That's that's to know if it's a good song or not.
So I would always go with like Hans Zimmer movie music.
Okay.
So like Inception's fucking,
Oh, man.
like that, or
Great movie.
Interstellar, like
Yeah.
those playlist or those soundtracks.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want words. I wanted to think my words.
So I like that. I like also.
I wanted to walk through my play sheet, and I wanted to see the coverage to that music. Like you watching a movie where you see a scene and the music can bring a fucking scene to a whole nother level if it hits right.
Yeah. No, like what are those called? Montages, maybe?
Yeah, maybe those. Yeah.
But I like a song where I can match the montage.
Yes.
And so like Naughty by Nature's Hip Hop Array is in The Last Dance. And so I'll listen to the song and replay that segment of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
There's another one there's a KRS-One song that is really cool. That's in The Last Dance. I'll listen to that KRS-One song. So like I like that. I might take that.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple.
Yeah.
I'll send you a
the
playlist.
best one is from The Dark Knight Rises when he's in that cave
That
and they're chanting and he's gotta get out of the cave.
if I'm trying to be real crazy, what I'll do is I'll get up on my skateboard. I'll throw on the Dark Knight Rises soundtrack at night, and you go fucking cruising. You feel like you're Batman. I swear
Please
to God.
tell me
Like,
you've
you
done
see
this.
you
Please
see
tell me
like
you've done this.
a million times.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is that when you got hit by that guy?
I was longboarding and some dude hit me when I was playing. Well, I fell into him. I look at him. He looked at me. He goes, "Are you all right?" Like, yeah, man, I'm good.
You
He's
go
like,
on the Dark Knight Rises soundtrack.
yeah. Or if I'm on a dirt bike or something.
Moonlight Sonata is a good one.
Yeah.
It kind of just takes you in. That's on the playlist. Moonlight Sonata, the song from the Dark Knight Rises. I forget the name of it.
I think it's just Dark Knight Rise Hans Zimmer because it goes by the scene.
Okay. Yeah.
You gotta check it out.
But I like Moonlight Sonata. That's a good one.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
let's jump into this matchup.
Should we get into these Sixers real quick?
Let's get into these Sixers.
54-28, finished third in the East. This was the final year of the Doc Rivers era in Philly. This was, of course, Joel Embiid's MVP season. Notably led the NBA in free throw percentage, 83.5, and three-point percentage, 38.7. Re-signed James Harden after trading for him the year before. Mac McClung dunk contest winner, two-way guy. We all remember that one, though. And yeah, finished third in the East.
Coach, how do you describe the Celtics 76ers rivalry? I mean, these are some of the oldest cities in this beautiful country that we live in. The bell being cracked over there, John Hancock being buried here. I mean, we could go into the history
Dr.
of
J
details.
choking Larry.
Yeah.
What does this rivalry mean?
I learned more about that watching Celtic City, because I think watching that dynamic
Past.
there. Yeah. So I think that runs deeper than maybe I understood, that particular one. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let's do some dude talk. What makes Joe Embiid so good?
I mean, the thing I appreciate about him is I'm pretty sure he was a soccer goalie. So I think his
I
footwork.
believe that is correct.
Yeah, his footwork, his hand-eye coordination.
Imagine him in a goal.
His
Oh my
timing and his angles. Like that, studying some of those guys brought me back to like the building connections on different sports, right? Like Tim Duncan being a swimmer. I think Hakeem Olajuwon was a goalie. And so like what can teach you from one sport, you can transition into making you. And that kind of like, that was one of the only advantages I had when I went to college was I wasn't great. I didn't have a lot of talent, but because of my soccer background, I was conditioned really well. And that helped me defensively take on angles and footwork and changing directions. And so always fascinated by how seeing what a goalie does and how he translate that. Jokic is like that with water polo. If you watch water polo, you're essentially watching Jokic post.
That's exactly how.
Wow.
That's how he plays.
Yeah.
He plays.
Was he a water polo player?
Like yeah. Like you can tell how he palms the ball, how he one-touch passes it when it's midair, how he almost embraces people draping on him because like you're having to do both of those things. And like watching him is like watching a water polo there. So
I've never put that together. That's the first time I ever heard that.
yeah. So like when I watch Jokic, I see water polo. When I watch Embiid, I see how his soccer background gave him the footwork, the angles, the hand-eye coordination, the timing to be so effective for such a big guy.
Yeah. What about James Harden?
Watching him play is like listening to like Moonlight Sonata. Like never gets sped up, plays at his own pace.
Always.
Yeah, always.
Smooth. Knows how to make a basket when he needs.
Knows how to just get to his, just do
Challenges those rule books too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Does what he does,
All right, let's jump into the Celtics, Jackie. Break
Get into
this
these
down.
Celtics, these
2022 Celtics.
57-25. Went into the All-Star break with the best record in the NBA at 42-17. Coming off a finals loss the year before to Golden State. Added some new key pieces. Malcolm Brogdon, Gallinari, Blake Griffin. This was the first full season with Derek White after bringing him in the year before. Re-signed Luke and Sam in the offseason. And prior to this year, this will be a little foreshadowing for the game, lost the legend Bill Russell in July, which was a huge loss for the Celtics and the basketball world as a whole. And of course, you got the Jays, Jalen, Jayson from the year before. So we're gelling coming into this year.
And we got
Smart still there.
And we got a new head coach.
And we got a new head coach, our main man.
What was it like being called to be the 19th coach for the historic Boston Celtics?
I mean, that's kind of where my faith came into play. It just felt like it was a true gift from God, really. Like it was like, I don't belong here. You go through a little bit of like, how the hell did I get here? / I don't belong here, but I was put here, by God. And so like that's really the only way to describe it. Yeah.
Can you describe to people, our viewers that are from different cities, how the Celtics are different than any other NBA franchise?
I think it starts with the history. It starts with the tradition. It starts with some of the greatest players to have ever played the game. And then it goes to the city. Like, there's not much difference between how Hugs motivated us the year we went to the Final Four and what it's like to be in Boston. I think the only way for a team to maximize itself, not just in 1 year, but in a series of years, is like we took on the identity of West Virginia people, the gritty, the hard-nosed, the blue collar. Like he was very adamant on like playing for something bigger than yourself. And it's the same thing here. you're playing for something bigger than yourself. You're not playing for just yourself. You're playing for the guy next to you, but you're playing for the city. You're playing for the competency of the fans and the respect of the fans and the respect of the organization. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. That comes with it's not easy, but it's necessary. And it's a compliment that you get that responsibility to be able to do it. But there's nothing better, and it's just different. And I think it's a list of all those things.
Yeah. The boys are back in town. That's right. We are back in Boston for another live show, an evening with the Nuthouse. You thought last year was wild. This year is going to be bigger and better. We got Gronk, myself, plenty of special guests and surprises in store August 28th at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway. Tickets on sale now. Go to Ticketmaster.com. Use promo code Nuthouse. It's going to be a blast. Now let's get into some of these roster guys. Who on this specific team 2022 Boston Celtics, who was the team asshole? Like the guy that, not like an asshole, but a team asshole in our world is a good guy that holds people accountable, may not do it in the most proper way, but works his dick off.
Yeah.
That kind of asshole, not like an asshole.
Yeah. I mean, let's not use that word because I don't like.
Who's a team enforcer?
Yeah. There's like a few guys. Everybody is in their own way, right? Like
vocal guy.
Like Jayson does it in one way. Jalen does it in another way. Al does it in another way. For this season and for his time here, you have to give that to Smart, like his ability to do that. And an underlying one who ended up being one of the best people I ever coached was Blake Griffin. He became just an amazing guy, and his ability to lead in different ways, both in action and in words. And so, they all did it in their own way. But the verbal probably, came from Smart, came from Blake, came from Jalen at times, came from Al at times. JT leads by example, like his consistency but he also leads, behind the trenches, the way how he treats other people and his coachability. So they all do it in their own way.
Now, how did Blake do it differently?
I mean, it was actually interesting because I didn't, again, I was the intern. And then we signed Blake, and I'm like, shit, like, how am I going to coach this guy? Like, he was a former number 1 pick. Like, it's Blake Griffin. And, his humility, like, he came in, and our relationship changed, and it motivated me when he came to me. He was like, hey, how can I get better? And for a guy of his stature and where he's been, to have the foresight to be like, hey, I want to get better. Like, how can I, that was huge, right? And every time he talked and decisions that he made weren't about him. They were about, winning.
Yeah. Now, you talk about Jayson Tatum and how he treats people. That's probably a huge component of why he is who he is. What else makes him great?
Yeah. I mean, I think you live in that space of like greatness is viewed as differently. And I think another thing, when you play for the Celtics and you have a great team and you have multiple guys, you have to take on everybody's greatness. And you have to allow space in order for greatness to kind of be exemplified in different ways, right? And like Al does it in a certain way, Jalen does it in Jalen does it in his way and his approach and his fierceness and his warrior mentality. Jayson does it in his consistency and his ability to just want to be coached all the time and want to be held accountable, which they all do that, right? But like, so I think that's how he does it. And, Al does it in his, the second guy that I was like, man, like, I think the hardest part about coaching that first year was when we didn't win, and I was like, man, I let Al down. Beyond all the other guys, like when you coach a guy, who knows he's got a few years, whether it's 3, 4, 5 left, you take on as we were talking about earlier, you take on the journey of each of your guys, right? And you take on the good and the tough stuff. And the hardest thing to do was knowing after that season that we didn't give Al what he deserved.
Yeah.
And that was something that we had to carry into the next season.
He's just a consummate professional. When I was there, like that was the vet pro guy.
Yeah.
Because when I was there, I went there and I hung out with you guys in like 2020. Like Jalen and Jayson, they were still babies.
Yeah.
Al was the old guy, and he wasn't old yet. He's kind of getting old. I mean, but he was the guy that like was the example for how these guys need to be as a professional, how he came into work, how his preparation habits were, how he took care of his body, how he practiced on the court. That's all the stuff that I just saw being a fly on the wall that was his leadership.
Yeah.
Didn't say much, but when he talked, everyone listened.
Yeah. And I think everyone does it in their own way. Like, I think, Jalen, he does it with his mindset and his warrior mentality. Jayson does it kind of the way Al did it, and you need both of those. And I think from what you're talking about when you were there to now, you've transitioned into each guy does it in their own way, and you need each guy's way to be able to set the tone and like the temperature of it.
And it's crazy in basketball because of the smaller rosters. They have such an impact on your 5 guys that your guys, they have an impact on everyone.
Yeah.
So they all have to come together and do their individual thing and do it in a different way because it influences everyone else.
Yeah, and everyone else influences that, and it's just kind of like a melting pot of influence.
I mean, it's a chain.
It is. I think that's the fun part about building a team and building an atmosphere and an environment. Is that fun part? Is how you put all that together.
Yeah.
But the guys make it easy. And I think your best players make it easy. Jayson makes it easy, Jalen makes it easy, and then it just goes on down the list.
Yeah. Let's jump into the game, Jackie.
I was going to say one of my favorite, we're talking building atmospheres here and building cultures. I think one of my favorite moments, and I'm paraphrasing here, Coach, was when I think Xavier Tillman joined the team and they asked him what you told him when he first walked in, and it was, don't be a jerk. I love that.
Did I say that?
I don't know. That's what he said.
I thought I said something like, don't be weird.
Okay, don't be weird.
Like, don't treat me like a coach.
Okay, I like that.
In the sense of like,
I always think back to that.
We gotta break down the barriers. Like, whatever needs to be said needs to be said. Like, I think I was trying to say, like, and I think everybody does this, but you see this sometimes with, whatever it is your previous relationships with your coaches are, don't bring in a preconceived notion of what that's going to be like for us, because I want to do it completely different. Not to say that one's better than the other, but let's bring an open mind to how we could build our relationship and how we're going to build a relationship as a team together,
That may not be different. It could be fabricated to what the other coach did, if that's the best for the player.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it was more like just come in with an open mind, and we're gonna start from scratch, and we're just gonna do this together.
Sorry for botching that quote, but I love that point.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I like coaching him.
Should we get in this game?
Let's get into it.
All right. So before this game, we talked, of course, the last time the Celtics had been on the parquet was a loss to the Warriors in the finals. But both teams were expected to contend for the East here, the Sixers and the Celtics. So high hopes.
Trust the process, man.
Trust the process. This was kind of put up or shut up time.
That's
what
I've seen.
Yeah, I mean,
great marketing ploy. Keep going. Sorry for cutting you
marketing
off.
ploy at that.
Philly. They just get at me.
I know. Unfortunately,
they're probably gonna come at me on this right
bring
here.
Bring it on, Philly.
Dilly, dilly, all that bullshit.
Get out of here with your tush push. Come on. But a little bit of turmoil going on in the Celtics organization coming into this one with injuries to Robert Williams to start the season, and Gallinari, of course, tore up his knee in the Euro basket playing against, I think, Georgia. So coming in a little banged up, and then of course before this game, a really great tribute to Bill Russell.
He tore it up in Worlds?
Yeah, Euro basket, I believe.
That brings a point to me.
Yes.
So the NFL just passed that one player per team could go play on the Olympic flag football team.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going through or what, but is there some kind of edge that you have when your guys go and play for the country because they're not, they could get hurt? Or is there like, we kind of forget that because it's America?
I mean, I think that's always a point of contention, but I think the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah.
I think when you have guys that want to take on the responsibility of their country, and play for something bigger than themselves, I think the only right thing to do is to have them do that, and you take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting in football though, because A, it's a different fucking sport.
Yeah.
B, there are only 16 games.
It doesn't really, but it's not. I mean, it's like it doesn't have the history of what like the
no
going to play Eurobasket or going to play, like, it doesn't have that yet.
No,
I mean, it could one day, but it just doesn't yet.
Yeah.
But you have a chance to win. I guess it's cool because I don't know. Not every sport has a chance to win a gold medal all the time.
This is our first time.
So I think that's something that you got to go after.
I'm gonna have to get the knees ready, Coach. See if I still got a couple in me. Get one of these little Spanish boys.
Toward all you're good, baby.
Give them. See what these Portuguese dudes know about a real shake route.
They ain't never seen a return. They ain't never seen a
return route. Coach, so this is your first game, right? Well, how nervous were you? Did you have nerves going into this? How did you handle the team? What was your first game, like first pregame speech? Did you have something that you remember from that?
I don't. I get anxious before every game.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, sitting there. I get more anxious. Like I can't, So that's never. I hope that never goes away.
It won't.
I hope that stays. I don't remember exactly. I remember like just don't make this about your first game. Make this about how we can win the game. And that's kind of what I was like. Don't make it about you. It's really not. It's about we gotta win the game. It's the first one. But at the same time, I think you go through of like, let's see what this is all about. I think it was like, okay, what's the difference between being an assistant, being a head coach? What makes Doc so good? What makes the players so good? Like I was excited to see whether I was going to be good at it or not right away, and what I was going to learn from it, and how quickly I could make that adjustment. But at the same time, I was like, we got to win this game.
Got to. And it couldn't be a more movie type game where you're playing against the Philadelphia 76ers, you're coaching against Doc Rivers, who won a championship in the city you're coaching for, that you were probably a fan of when you were a kid. Like that had to bring some more anxiety. So do you not worry about them?
No, that's definitely true. Like I think, especially in my first year, and I think it'll always be this way, the people who I looked up to and studied are the people that I'm in the arena against now. Like, and I think, every coach you have to be able to have a respect for, but also steal what they're great at and try and do it yourself. And so, especially that first year, it was like, as I was going on the sideline, I was like, okay, I remember an article about this coach. I remember a strength or a weakness about this coach. I remember a situation of when this coach did this. And so you take that on and you try to use it, and you try to use it for yourself, and you try to use it against them at some point. And so that's never going to go away either.
Yeah. Now, how was the energy that night in the garden?
That was insane. Yeah, that was insane. I mean, you can't even simulate. It's like taking a drug.
Yeah, I've never done that.
Me neither.
I need my doctor to prescribe me Boston Garden game night. Come on now. Get me going.
What?
I don't need this B12.
What?
A little game night Boston Garden atmosphere, bro. If you could like put that in a pill.
Oof, that is, it's different.
So what was your first test as a head coach in this game, Coach? Do you remember a specific timeout, a specific...
So I think the first test came, we were losing, right?
Yes.
We were losing.
Started with a 9-2 run. C's were up. Then you got outscored 27-15 for the rest of the first quarter.
Yeah.
Al got in some foul trouble.
That was a test, right? Of like, again, you can plan as an assistant, what your philosophy is going to be like, what your identity is going to be like, but you don't know what type of job you're going to take over.
Until you're in
it. And so like, I had just gotten the interview for the Utah job, which is obviously it was in a different place than what the Celtics were in. And so like your mind is like, oh, okay, like I'm a young coach sitting on the back bench. I'm probably going to take over a rebuild at some point. Like, and then, a week later you're taking over a team that has championship expectations. So all those fucking notes you took on, like, that they really just don't matter. They may matter at some point, but they don't right now. And so you're kind of using more of your instincts than you are using your experiences, because you don't have any experiences. And so I just remember like, okay, like how am I instinctually going to handle this run that we're on, or this losing? And then it was like, it was a close game. And down the stretch, I remember, we ran one play 3 or 4 times and got 3 or 4 different great looks out of that towards the end of the game, which kind of gave us the win there. And so there was a lot to unpack there in the game, managing those runs, managing your timeout communication, managing the end of game about where the ball is going to, how you're going to execute it, what are the matchups. So all those things, they came right there in game one.
Yeah.
I remember the plays that we ran. I mean, Grant was a huge part of executing some of those off-ball actions that we got a couple open threes and a layup on. And it was a fruition of some of the stuff that we know we needed to get better at throughout the season were our off-ball actions. And, game one kind of tested that.
Now, do you remember that and what you just said, those situations in this specific game because it was your first game? Or do you have like a photographic memory where you remember, like coaches usually do? I don't know.
I don't want to give myself the credit of saying I have a photographic memory, but you remember. I can remember a lot of stuff. Yeah, I can remember pinpoint situations. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it's crazy. Coaches, they always
But it's all we're watching.
Yeah.
You end up watching one game 3 or 4 times, and then it becomes embedded, and then you use everything as a reference point.
And even more probably if you play that team again, and if you want to get back.
So it ends up like, I got a good memory, but at the same time, I'm constantly retrieving it, watching the same stuff. So it's more about the retrieval of over and over again, and then you need this situation to be able to fall back on for something else. You know what I mean?
Do you guys break down? Do you guys have situational basketball like we do in football?
That's one of my favorite things. Yeah, I think
that's one of the things that Bill was so big on, and he was one of the pioneers, which some people could say it was Parcells, which it probably was, but breaking down the game in situations. You guys have like a 2-minute basketball like plan?
I think ours is more end of quarter, start of quarter, end of the quarter, the start of the quarter, end of a half, last 2 or 3 minutes. To me, that's where that's where the games are won and lost.
Yeah.
If you get to the point of where it's a close game,
turnovers,
the margins. It sounds redundant, but it just it's the end all be all.
Yeah,
the end all be all are the margins, and they leave the controlling the margins will dictate how much grace you're allowed to have throughout the game. If you get into a situation of where it's a 1-point game in the fourth quarter, it's almost 100% because of there was a margin won or lost at a situation. And then the second piece is like, how do you manage those runs? Every team's going to go on a run. Can you not have it 27-15? Can it be 19-15 run or 21-15 run? I think those two things get lost in the shuffle of all the stuff that gets talked about amongst games of why you won or lost.
Well, they get paid too. Yeah, this is National Basketball Association. Okay, they're fucking good.
Yeah,
there's gonna be some big ass plays. We got to be able to have a short memory, boys.
Yeah,
get back into the new situation. Jack, can you walk us through until halftime?
First quarter was defined by that run that we talked about, and Harden got fouled on 3 3-pointers, which is incredible, like just insane.
Didn't that step?
I know.
The
Garden was not loving it. We weren't loving it. 8 for 8 on free throws. He had 16 in the first. Big quarter for JB in the second, 14. Shot 71% in the second quarter that the Celtics did as a team. No turnovers was a big one in that one.
Huge.
Harden finished the first half with 4 threes. So he and Embiid were heating up, doing the pick and roll thing. They were both getting going. Tied it up at the half after a big second quarter. That takes us into the half.
So at halftime, what's the locker room like under head coach Joe Mazzulla? It depends.
I think from soon as that horn goes off, even during the first half, I'm constantly saying, okay, what did we do well? What didn't we do well? What hurt us? And you try to anticipate on what's going to happen in the second. And then when the horn goes off, it's about a 45-second to a minute walk to the back. You're kind of deciding about like, all right, like what does the team need right now in this moment? And then, what are we going to focus on? And so in that game, you're talking about you foul a 3-point shooter 3 times and you give them 9 potential points out of that you have to take that away. And so I think you're just constantly, but it changes, right? Sometimes you're in there and you show film, sometimes you're in there and like you don't show any film. Sometimes it's like, okay, who does an individual player need something or does the team need something? And so you're just constantly diagnosing what needs what at that moment, figuring out like, okay, where do we need to be better that we can control? Where do we need to be better of the things that, we sucked at? And then, try to get ready for the second half there.
Now, how long is the halftime?
It's 15 minutes. By the time you get back to the locker room, it's like 13:30. And then you got 3.5 minutes to look at the halftime edit to see what you want to show. And you try to show the halftime edit at like 10.
So do you have, because like whenever our halftime, it was clockwork. We would come in for halftime. It was 13 minutes or 12 minutes. Coaches would have 2 minutes together while we were undrain, like let our emotions get down. And then we break up into O&D. Offensive coach would have his 4 keys that we're going into. Defensive coach would have his 4 keys. We'd have 2 minutes there. Then we'd have 2 minutes as a team. And then special teams would have 1 minute or what, like it was broken down. Like, do you guys have a moment where like that, or it's different because you guys are so small?
Yeah, it's different. So I think you're in the back.
As far as roster size.
No, by the time we get to the team, it's probably 4 clips offense, 4 clips defense. Or if one side of the ball is just so much more drastically different impacting the game, you just focus on that. But it's like that in the staff of like, the offense team will give their insight. The defense team will give their insight. The coach doing the halftime edit kind of puts in, order of what's most important. And you're just, so in that 3.5 minutes, you're kind of deciding, okay, what's the most important? Are both important or are we focusing on one?
Yeah. Jackie, let's go to the second half.
In the second half, really turn up that defensive intensity on Embiid, almost like doubling on the catch. The coverage was awesome. Smart was in there, making it hard for him, not getting to his spots. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier, creating fast break opportunities, 5 for 5 on turnovers in the third. Celtics were off Sixers turnovers.
I think that's where we changed the matchup and put Smart on Embiid.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was able to draw a couple
huge.
fouls. He was able to Smart was able to take advantage of that matchup defensively, raising some hell and creating that. That was a big shift in that game. And then, we ended with, I believe we ended with, it was Jayson, Jalen, Al, Grant, and Derek. Was the end lineup.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
That put the matchups, Embiid had to decide who he was going to, be matched up with. And that was kind of like our 5-out lineup because we had 5 guys that were skilled, could pass, catch, shoot, and I think that changed the momentum of the game a little bit.
It really did. And then JT was getting downhill all third, 17 just in the third alone, like attacking the rim, getting fouled, just really taking over. And then, of course, wouldn't be a Celtics-Sixers game without a little scuffle, baby.
Yeah.
We got Smart and Embiid going at it.
I mean, that's why you put the matchup there is, Smart can take advantage of those moments.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth, really opened up that lead and came out of this
only
one.
by 1 in the fourth, though.
I know, but
it's the grace of winning the third.
yes.
And so, yeah.
And that's the margins.
That's the margins. We had, how many turnovers did we force in the third quarter? 6?
5.
5, yeah.
They scored on all of them.
Yeah, you force 5 live ball turnovers and you score on that can change the game.
And then you look back to the whole game, like Coach was saying, in the margins, won the fast break scoring advantage 24-2, which is massive.
But what was the points off turnovers?
Oh, points off turnovers. Ours were 22. It was 22 to 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they weren't necessarily fast break points as much as they were like points off our defense. So that's huge.
And then end up winning this thing 125-117. 35 apiece from Jalen and JB.
That's huge.
First thought that comes to your mind after getting your first win in the NBA of your childhood freaking team in the Garden. Like, what's that first thought?
I don't suck. As much as I thought.
Happily miserable. This guy motherfucker is happily miserable.
That was really it. I was like, man, I didn't, like, I remember my dad's voice, like, don't fuck this up. I was like, okay, I didn't fuck it up too bad. Got a shot at this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remembered your dad's voice.
Yeah, don't fuck it up.
Man, that's awesome. Aftermath.
In February, the interim tag was removed. Which was awesome.
Rightfully so.
Celtics end up winning the season series against Philly 3-1. Beat Philly in the second round of the playoffs. Epic 7-game series. Made the playoffs for this 9th consecutive season. We did. Upset by Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games. But let's fast forward to 2023, 2024. Rays Banner 18, beating Dallas 4-1, baby. Brought that Larry O'Brien trophy back home.
I mean, some could say this is the start of the new generation Celtics. This specific game. That's how important this specific game could be considered. Tell people what it's like to win a ship in Titletown.
To
Boston.
me, it is you feel the responsibility to the city, to the people, but really to the players. And there's so many people in the organization that do so much that people don't know about. And
Equipment staff, the lunch ladies, the people that let you in the facility, the parking lady, the parking people, the people that clean up after you.
But also the business side, right? Like the people in the business office. And so I think it's a culmination of gratitude for everybody involved and to the city. But for me, it's my priest sent me a text the day of the parade, and me and Luke Cornett talked about this. Winning the parade is very similar to Palm Sunday. It's not Easter. And Palm Sunday it puts you now it gets harder.
Palm Sunday is the week before Easter?
Yeah.
And then you got Ash Wednesday?
Yeah. No, Ash Wednesday is the beginning. You got Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday,
We're getting a little Catholic
Easter.
talk. Love it.
And so winning is like Palm Sunday because you're waiting for that next Easter. It may or may not come. That's the space of like happily miserable, of duality, of there's the people and the players, and then there's like that space between Palm Sunday and Easter. And all we're doing now is we're in that space of that week of trying to get back to Easter. And you got to do it, but you may not.
He may not. He may not come.
It may stop at Good Friday.
He may not come.
It may stop at Good Friday, and you fight like hell to make sure you get another one. I mean, when that horn went off, that's the only thing I thought about. How are we going to do this again?
Yeah.
What do we have to do? And not in an unhealthy way. I think, you live in a space of like, I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but for however long, that has to be the focus. It's got to be the relationships with the people, and it's got to be like, how do we get back to Easter Sunday again? And you just have to constantly think about that every day.
You ain't got to explain yourself here. People don't understand when you're in the grind of trying to chase your dreams. And once you get your dreams, you recalibrate your dreams.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have time to sit back and say, man, this is cool.
You don't.
Like, you don't get time to enjoy it. People that are successful at certain things, they can say they enjoy it, but if they're having a long sustained career in something, it's hard to enjoy it. Like, I didn't enjoy my career until I retired because I was in the heat of it. After each year, whether you win, you're more stressed because you have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
You lose, you're fucking pissed off the whole time from not winning it.
And you still got to reinvent yourself.
And you have to still reinvent yourself.
But how many years would you play?
12.
12 years is not much, and comparatively speaking, into your life.
No, without a doubt.
And so, like, it's not unhealthy to live in that space for 10, 12 years. It's a balance. People, family are important, but so is going after greatness. And there's no trajectory as to what it's going to look like. That's the perspective that we talked about. Do I think we'll get another one? Absolutely, we have to. But the Spurs won 5 over the course of 10 years. The 81 team, it took 82 and 83 and all that pain to come back in 84. And so it's just this journey that we're on together. And you got about a 10, 15 year window in life to do something, to really go after something. And you got to do it for however, you got to do it.
You got to do it. Let's grade the game. Up. Coach got me ready to run through a fucking wall. Let's name the game. These are some names we came up with. If you have a suggestion, you can give us a suggestion.
Of course.
The first one is the sweetest. Joe's first game. The Joe opener. This one's
Jopener.
The Jopener. This one's for Bill. Because Bill Russell, R.I.P.
Oh, yeah, that one. You don't have to finish the rest.
Done.
This one's for Bill.
This one's for Bill.
What did Bill Russell mean to the Celtics organization?
I tell you what, like, you realize what he means, and then you hear about Jaylen talk about what he means from a off the court perspective, and he sets the tone. He sets the standard of what it's like to be a Celtic. I've so enjoyed listening to Jaylen talk about how he's impacted him and how he's impacted the game, and it's been great to see the relationship that Red and Bill have had. And but it's also interesting to see from Celtic City, like, this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of, like, you only remember the good things. Like, it wasn't always easy for him. It wasn't always easy for teammates. Like, his teammates, they argued, they felt a certain way about each other. They had good times and bad times. There's the picture of Bill sitting in the ice tub reading his critics in the newspaper. Like, the criticism was always there. The episode, there are no final victories. That's the space between Palm Sunday and Easter, is like, it's never going to be good enough. And even a guy as good as him, he felt that. And that's never going to go away. And so he just is an example of so many different things that you can look back onto as a Celtic, but also as a person.
The greats, they all have one thing. They have the ability to compartmentalize like no other.
Yeah.
That's something that, like, Tom Brady, you notice from him.
Yeah.
Like, whatever was going on in his life, how he was at work it was work time.
Yeah. It's not always that space is difficult though, because then you just feel nothing.
No, you're essentially a serial killer.
Yeah. No, you are.
You are.
And, like, you drag your wife and kids into it. You drag your family into it.
We won't get into that, but yes.
You just drag, like my wife is dragged into this. Like, this is her life.
But she loves it
and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. She's every great coach has a great wife at home.
You got to sit at the game with her. She's a fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Maniac.
I'll have to sit in the game.
It's actually pretty awesome to watch. It's actually, like, really cool.
Is she from out here?
She's from West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You brought someone down below that Macy-Dixon line up here to the north, huh, buddy?
Yeah.
Let's score the game. Is this the greatest game of all time? Let's score it. 76ers versus the Celtics season opener 2022-2023 NBA season. Coach Mazzulla's first game as head coach of the Boston Celtics. Stakes, 0 to 10 decimals okay, coach.
I mean, your stakes were pretty high, I would imagine. You can't be an interim and lose your first game. That's kind of, you're fucked.
Yeah. So what are you going to, 0 to 10 decimals?
Stakes were high. They were at 10.
10.
Yeah.
I've never been in that situation. I don't know the coach's life, but I'll give it an 8.
I like that. Whoa, 3.2. Man, what are you doing,
I'm
Jack,
Russian
here?
judging
Judging us. I'm tripping. Jeez Louise.
I had a 5.1 regular season game. Our perspective, your perspective, obviously a 10.
Yeah.
Star power of the game. A lot of greats.
That's a 10.
10.
10.
Are we coach, are we all right? 10. I will go. Look, Jaylen and Tatum, they weren't them yet.
They combined for 70 points.
I know, but we're talking in time and place in the era of where it was at. I'm gonna go with an 8.1.
I went with an 8.9.
Let's go.
7.9.
All
I'm
right.
really kicking myself for that stake score. I'm sorry, coach.
That's all right.
The gameplay of this game, back and forth, how it was visually for the viewer, could be gameplay for you as a coach, how you had to coach situationally. 0 to 10 decimals okay.
I'll go 8.5.
I'm going to go, it was an opener, gameplay, crowd was going cranking. I'm going to go with the 8, 7, 9, 6, 5.
7.9. We're in the
All
same
right.
ballpark.
That's
Yep, that's good.
6.5.
We're all there.
Name's a 10.
The name is a 10.
Yeah.
Coach knew. I'm gonna go with the 9.5. It's the great one. We did a autograph signing my rookie year with him.
I got to change. I scored this before we knew what we decided on. I'm got to give this a 10.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
greatest winner of all time. 10 for
I had
Bill.
a 1.8. I want to change it for 18 championships. I'm going to go for,
Oh, that's it.
9.1.
numerology. Actually, you know what? 8.1. There you
There
go.
it is.
Reverse.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
Now, where does it stack up into the games we've done all time?
Was Patrick Waugh the goalie in that 2001 Stanley Cup?
Oh, yeah. We're doing that one tomorrow. And he was.
Are you?
Yeah.
Was he the goalie?
Yeah.
And then Brendamore was the goalie for the Devils?
Brodeur.
Brendamore.
Yeah, Martin Brodeur.
Martin Brewer.
Yeah.
I remember those two goalies. They were fucking nasty.
Incredible. So
You're a hockey guy.
Low-key
I mean, I
puckhead.
played NHL as a kid. The Detroit Red Wings were my team. They had Chris Osgood and between the pipes, he was big time.
everyone
Chris
keeps
Chelios was on that team.
Shanahan,
Steve Yzerman was on that
yeah.
team. Nicholas Lindstrom was a hell of a defenseman.
Darren McCarty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin Brodeur versus Patrick Waugh. I mean, you don't get a better game than that.
Fight Night at the Joe is one of our highest recommended game. Tomorrow, just so you know, this will be coming out way later. Tomorrow, Stanley Cup's coming here with Ray Bork. We're talking about that game.
Yeah,
I'm over the moon.
Who else was on that team? There was a forward.
The Avalanche?
I'll tell you about the Red Wings. The Red Wings had a forward that was unbelievable. I think he was a Russian guy.
Datsuk?
No.
Oh, Fedorov. Sergei Fedorov?
Sergei
Yes,
Fedorov. Yeah,
with the
Sergei
white
Fedorov.
skates. Yeah.
Yeah, he was big
That's how
time.
you know you're an NHL head.
Yeah. Fedorov.
I just like
yeah.
sports.
But you always learn the rosters through playing the video game.
Yeah, no question.
Like that's
Yeah.
how I know FIFA or
Yeah.
like soccer.
Fedorov was sick in this.
Yeah, Sergei Fedorov was sick.
Get ready to power up your play with the brand new Nintendo Switch 2 system. It's got powered up visuals with 4K support and a bigger, more vivid screen. Magnetic Joy-Con 2 controllers that attach and snap into brand new exclusive games like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World, as well as select upgraded favorites from Nintendo Switch. Power up your play with Nintendo Switch 2. All together, anytime, anywhere. Games rated E to E10+. Games and system sold separately. Compatible TV required for 4K display. Where did the game
Okay,
match
so
up?
it's an 8.11. It's our new 34th game overall, just behind the 2007 Western Conference Playoffs, Game 5, Mavs versus Warriors that we did with Mark Cuban. And then
The
No, that was the Gotta
no,
Believe game.
that's what we did with Rosello, right?
No, this was the one
Baron
we did with Baron Davis.
Baron Davis, yes.
The We
And-
Believe Warriors.
And then just ahead of the Avery Rule game, Devils versus Rangers. There you go. We did with Sean Avery.
So 34, that's not bad.
It's not good.
No.
Regular
that's not
season
at all.
game, it's pretty good.
And you can come on and you have plenty of games that will score a lot higher.
Malcolm Butler game. I was on a bus for Glenville State College, driving back from a game, watching it on my phone when he got the interception. Remember that one?
How gnarly
heck
was that?
yes.
Yeah, that was sick. Miracle on Ice. That's a great movie.
Low for, it shouldn't be
Um,
fourth, but it's okay.
I mean,
That's a great
it
movie.
stopped the Cold War.
Snowball game. That was huge.
Snow.
Yeah.
Are you a wrestling fan?
WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which ones do we
We
have on
got
it?
Becky Lynch, We also did one with Shawn Michaels.
Michaels.
Yep, the Iron Man match.
That match was insane.
60 minutes.
You don't have the Rock. You don't have the Astrodome. What was the WrestleMania at the Astrodome? Was that the Rock versus Stone Cold?
Let me see.
So
we haven't had that
so
yet.
there are plenty of matchups that aren't on our list because we haven't done them yet.
Okay.
So these are all games that we've covered.
These are
with
the
people.
games that we've had interviews.
I think the Rock Stone Cold
Yes.
at the Astrodome, WrestleMania.
2001.
That was like our age.
And then you have the Rock Mankind on the
ladder match.
the steel cage
Steel
match.
cage.
Steel cage
With the
match.
tax. Wasn't there tax?
Yeah, the tax. Yeah.
I used to love that shit.
I mean, that was like, if you told me it wasn't real, I would punch you in the face.
I got suspended for giving a suck it sign to my teacher.
Yeah, I mean, who
We've all
didn't?
been there.
We've all been there. I think X-Pac was one of my favorites.
I love
X-Pac
And
was
he
great.
do with the rodeo.
Yeah, X-Pac
He'd go get
was
his head.
phenomenal.
Because he was small.
Yeah,
He was fucking awesome.
X-Pac was huge.
Coach, did we miss anything from this game?
Nah, the game was the worst part about today.
Nah, this game's fucking awesome,
Hey,
man.
1-0, baby.
I
That's a
know,
win.
but
We in Boston are very extremely happy and excited to have you as our head coach. It's a person from the community.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
you know,
appreciate
it's amazing. You gone out and you've had great success early on in your career, and you look to learn to get it to continue it. Like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
constantly learning. That's something that I've always felt when I've talked to you in our conversations. It hasn't been many, but you're always on like the hunt to learn. You're always trying to take something from someone to help your team. And I think, man, it's been a pleasure to get to know you.
Yeah. No, Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, no, thanks for paving the way with the success you've had as a player. And I've said all the time, like the people before us, because they've won, they've made this job what it is. And the best compliment and the gift that you have is coaching in Boston, coaching the Celtics, coaching for the responsibility and the ownership of going after championships every year. But also, I think just as important as that is trying to take on the identity of the city and take on the identity of what it means to be a athlete or a person in Boston and what it means to be a competitor for the Celtics. Those two things, every day I wake up, I'm grateful for that, you know, because I don't know how long it's going to last, but for however long it does, you got to make sure we try to leave it in a better place. And I think, you know, credit to our former ownership of Wick and Pags is they got it and they left it in a better place. And I'm thankful to them for giving the opportunity. And then now we have, you know, new ownership in Bill and Wick and, you know, they'll look to do the same thing. And it's just the ultimate responsibility. So I'm forever grateful to the city and to people like you who've, you know, paved the way for us.
Oh, man.
From a fan perspective, Coach, thank you for everything you do, man. I look up to you. I love you. You've given me some of my best sports memories of all time. So
Jack was
Thank
at the
you.
game you guys won.
I was at Game 5 with Sam, and I think a lot of us, our best memories in life revolve around sports, and
They do.
that's right up there at the tippy top. So
We got to create
I'm
more.
forever grateful for you.
Let's
We gotta
create
create
more.
more.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
create more. Everyone go
go.
check them out. Boston Celtics mindset's going to be on fire this year.
Let's go.
And thank you, Coach Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Man,
That was a white whale guess for me.
he's got a mindset. I'm excited to watch him continue his coaching career.
Me too.
And I feel like I'm a little more invested to the Celtics now because I'm rooting for him.
Oh, me too. Like I would run through a wall for Joe. I'd go to battle for Joe. I'd go to the depths of hell for Joe. I'm a Joe guy, and that would just put it over the top.
Yeah.
Took it to a whole nother level. And there's kind of this weird, we talked about it a little bit, but when you don't win the ship and when the season comes up short and it feels like a failure, like me as a fan, you go into kind of more like, you're like, it's a weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole offseason is just a bummer, but hearing from Joe and his positivity and his mindset and that tenacity, like I'm back, baby.
He's
I needed
happily
that.
miserable.
He is.
Loves it.
He loves it.
We just sent him like 15 new hoodies.
Yeah, we're gonna start to.
That's a
Happily miserable
I want-
back.
I
you
want to
guys
start.
bonded over that big time. That's a Joe. He loves that.
He loved it.
That's a
I want
great
to
Joe
start doing a
phrase.
happily miserable segment.
Ooh.
Maybe every once in a while, where we could talk about the things that makes us happy that we're miserable about.
Let's pump the brakes, boys. Jeez.
It's a
Yeah.
360 situation. See, the segment will help us sell merch. The merch will help us.
Let's
See the
just
pie
let's
chart.
pump the brakes. Okay, it's time. You know what it's time for. It's time for the Chill Zone, brought to you by Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/GWN and celebrate responsibly.
It's pretty cool how you opened it with one hand like that. Cheers, Bubba.
You never done that?
My dexterity, not quite that good.
I don't know.
I'm a two-hander.
That's like, I don't know. That just feels white trash to me. You just be like,
Nah, it feels like that's like your little Texan guy coming out. You just reach over, grab you, Coors.
I think that was like how one of like my uncle's friends used to open the beer.
He was the man.
No, he was a complete degenerate.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah, I think we were at like my grandma's trailers. Let's get into this though.
Since this episode was all about the Celtics, and there's this great bond between athletes, especially in Boston, we want to pull back the curtain a little bit and talk to you, Jules, about what it's like to hang out with other pro athletes from other sports, within your sport, around the league, just everywhere, and that kind of bond you guys have when you yourself are a pro athlete, how those friendships are made, how they're maintained, just to kind of get a sense of how it is. Because, you know, as a fan, you wonder, like, is that guy really buds with that guy? Is that guy, you know, like, and I think it's especially cool in Boston. So
yeah, you know, early in my career, I would see Veritek at a lot of like charity events,
Heck
Buck
yeah.
Holtz. I never really saw Pedroia. I always wanted to. I mean, I used his bat in batting practice.
laser
show. So that was like my Red Sox, and then I used to hang out with what's his name,
Gabe Napoli.
Mike Napoli.
Mike.
You know, we used to like. It's in those days we would see each other at local bars. That's when Daisy Buchanan's was still around, and that
Nice.
was like
Legendary spot.
that was a legendary spot, and so you would see a lot of guys there. And then we go to, I remember going to like this Chinese restaurant after hours, and I would see Baby Davis and a lot of the Celtics there.
Lynn Davis, baby, big
And
baby.
you'd go there, and I'm not going to say the name of the establishment, but all you had to do is ask for cold tea, and they give you a bucket of beer after 2. So like that's where I would see a lot of
So
this.
hold on. So you're at the club, you're at a bar, you're at something, and you see like the Celtics guys over there. How does that like? Does someone go up? Do you like guys recognize each other? Like is it just like a head nod, or like how does that actually go down?
It depends, because like I was still young then. I became closer with like I met Jaylen Brown a few times, and he
JB.
came and hang out. We hung out a couple times, and the newer Celtics, the older one, I was still too young in my prime, and I didn't live in the city yet. So that was early on in my career where I would come into the city. When I moved to the city, that's when I started hanging out more with like Knapp and, you know, a couple of the Celtics. I would see them. I went and spent time with them at their facility. So I got to know them a little. I hung out with the Bruins when we were young, Segs, Thornton. I would see Milan. We would have beer chugging contests at DeMonica's. Anytime Luch was around, it was just like we were chugging beers.
How'd you meet those guys?
You know, it always happened at like either a charity event, or at local establishments. You go to Southie, you'd see some of the Bruins out. And then nowadays it's simply because of social.
Yeah, that
You know
makes
what
it.
I mean? Now we both follow each other, and something you comment on a story, they comment on one of yours, and that's how you stay in touch.
Yeah.
So
That's clutch.
that's like the cool thing about it. You know, you can still stay in touch with guys via social without even having to talk to them. But like athlete friendship is also different friendship. Like I haven't seen, you know, example, I go to Cardonia's wedding. I haven't seen Ryan Allen in 7 years since he left. And it, you know, we see each other. It's like we haven't not seen each other
Didn't miss a
for
beat.
7 years. Didn't miss a beat. And it's like that because you understand when you're a professional athlete that like your life is pretty much predicated around your sports schedule. And the times that you do cross paths with other guys, you enjoy those times, but you sometimes you just don't have time to like, hey man, what are you doing here or there or that, you know? So, you know, and then Celtics games, you go to Celtics games and there'd always be, I think I went to a Celtics game with Brad Marchand once with Dooley.
Cool.
Heck yeah.
Same as
Marshy.
Gronk. Gronk used to go a lot with them. You would see some of the Celtics, or you would see all the Celtics. You would see some of the Red Sox.
If you're going to let's say you're going to a Celtics game with whoever, are you interacting with the Celtics like after or before, or like because if the Celtics, oh, we know there's a Patriots guy, you connect, or is
it's
it
more
like
of just this?
on the
It's a head nod. I know they're working.
yeah.
You know, I remember when, you know, you had people at the game and, you know, like this is their job. You know, I'll like, what's up? Adapt maybe. maybe a inner joke with Jalen.
I love when JB comes, daps you up, give you the hug.
How does that work
courtside
when you are a football player? Because the field is so far removed from the state. Like, are you ever noticing guys that are in town or people there?
You know what? You would see, because like after teams would win, they would come and we'd had cool, like they would wear like a Patriot jersey or a Boston Celtics jersey or a Bruins jersey. Like there's a lot of those types of things where you would go to their games. We dropped pucks, we threw first pitches, and they would come to our games to be honored before the game or at halftime or something like that. And it's different. I was never like a key kind of guy before a game. Like, hey,
like that.
Kiki, hey,
yeah, tummy sticks.
buddy.
Yeah, we weren't doing that. I wasn't, at least. I would give a head nod or something, but I had to like mentally put myself in a different place to go out and perform. Like I didn't, like even McAfee talks about it. Like when I used to like look at the other punters, I was trying to intimidate them. Like I would go right next to them, like watching. I loved like the pregame psychological battles, like or like looking at a DB a certain way. Like I played with some of those. Fuck that, not today. You know what I mean? That's how I saw guys do it. That's how I was kind of told to approach it, and that's how I developed it. But getting back to other athletes, we were talking with Joe. It's pretty cool to get to play for this city. Like it's insanely cool to get to play for Boston and have this part of your identity, because it's such a huge pivotal sport identity. Like this could be like, New York's a big market, this, that, but like this is a huge, crazy, like pro sport town where they've all got to taste success while all being good.
Now, is there a bit like a sibling rivalry between the sports in a city like Boston? Like, oh, they won a championship more recent than us, we got to go out and do it. Like, is there anything of that? Friendly.
It was never like, fuck them.
Yeah.
They won a chip. It was more like, hey,
motivation.
Fucking Bruins just won one. Let's go get one.
Now it's our time.
Now it's our time. I saw that damn parade. It looked pretty damn fun. Because, the Bruins won right before we won. Yeah. I think it was 11 or 12.
11.
And then 3 years later, we won our first, really, and the first in 10 years for the Patriots. So people were kind of forgetting about us. The Red Sox were going.
Had a couple. Yep.
You know what I mean? And then the Celts had 08. So, like, there is a time where it's a motivation factor that everyone had one except us, as in the Patriots. And even the Patriots before our time had one. So individually for that like era team, it was like, yo, I'm sick and tired of hearing about these fucking old Patriots. I'm sick and tired of hearing about we're the only ones without a chip. Like that's the kind of shit how I used it, at least. I can't speak for everyone.
So taking it outside of Boston, you kind of mentioned it slightly earlier. How do you like meet other players in the league if you didn't ever like play with them or like be in high school with them or college with them? How do you meet those guys?
Early in my career, it'd be like word of mouth type stuff.
Teammate of a teammate.
Now social media, but I remember early in my career, Larry Fitzgerald used to hold this camp in the off season for receivers. It was like one of the first, like, there's tight end university. Larry was doing that kind of stuff 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where, a bunch of receivers would go there, big name guys. And then, I was going into like my second or third year, and I got Charlie Fry used to go throw with them. So I asked Charlie if I go, and Larry said, no problem, come. And so like we went and had like a training seminar for like a week together where I went and trained, we'd run routes, and like, that was just word of mouth. That was through a teammate. Now it's really easy. Just all you got to do is tap in. You can get to anyone, and say, man, hey, love your game, or something like that.
Are there any like off-season like congregation points? Like, oh, a lot of guys go to LA to train, or a lot of guys go to like Arizona to train, and that's where you
so a lot of there's like usually there's like 5 hubs. Early, back in my day, it was like Arizona, like in the off season, guys would chase the sun, want to be able to train and work out in sun or in their hometowns. A lot of guys come from the South, a lot of guys come from South Florida. So South Florida was a big one. the Tampa, there's like training facilities there. It was like the APIs, the Exoses, and there's these other ones that were coming. They'd be South Florida. There'd be one in Texas. There'd be guys that go to Texas somewhere, either Austin or Houston or Dallas. There'd be a group of people in Scottsdale. That's where Larry was. So that's where I flew out to do that receiver camp. And then there was California group, which was usually like LA. There'd be usually guys in LA. You get a lot of like transplant guys that would come in for, 3 or 4 days. When I was training at API that turned into Exos, I would train there for like 3 months, but there'd always be new guys in and out because they do a commercial in LA, but they still need to get their workouts in. So they'd come to API, get their workout in and we jump into groups and then we would train. And that was like some of the coolest stuff about the off season is when I would train and there'd be a group of guys, TJ Ward and I remember training a lot with him at Exos because he was an LA guy. That's how me and Amendola met, training in LA.
So that was before you guys were teammates?
Before we were teammates, so we started training together. There was a group of guys.
That's pretty cool.
You would go to UCLA and there'd be a group of receivers and coaches out, or not coaches, receivers and quarterbacks. They're like coaches. They would run it and we'd, run routes. And that was like a way to A, compete, B, look at how other guys train, C, like steal techniques and look at like movements. Cause like we didn't have Instagram like what it was now, or TikTok on what it is now, or you could see how everyone trains. Like we would all like congregate to like UCLA, use their practice fields. There'd be a group of guys. I remember Odell would come out. There'd be those group of guys. TJ Hushmanzada used to come out.
Like Mazzilli, let's go.
So like you'd always have these guys, the LA guys, and then there would be transplant guys that were here for training, and then everyone would go there and run routes. And I loved that stuff. And then also, I came out here, I went to LA because that's where Tom lived at the time and he trained. And so we would go to his quarterback coach, Tom House. And I developed such a relationship with him that even when Tom was gone, I would go to Tom House because he always had pro arms. Like I would throw with like Matt Stafford. I would throw with Jared Goff. I would throw a lot with like Matt Castle. I threw with Carson Palmer a bunch because he was in LA, but that was a different group. But like I would go to where the arms were, the NFL arms, because I wanted to catch live balls. I wanted to catch balls from guys that were throwing an NFL ball. Jugs machine's great, and that's great for like strengthening your hands, but the ball comes out differently when you're running full speed and it's coming off a live arm. And that ultimately for me was my best way to prepare, was running a lot of routes. So I would look for the arms.
You can't go get a beer with a jugs gun like you can Matthew Stafford afterwards either.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, that ball didn't hit the turf that day.
Now, how do those sessions work? Are they like, or what's the vibe? Are they kind of chummy, or do they sometimes get a little like competitive and a little bit like
depends on who's there?
Or does any rivalries exist into those things where like, oh, this guy beat us last playoff, I'm going a little harder, I'm going to have a little bit of an extra edge.
Which sessions are we talking? Workout sessions or throwing sessions?
Well, explain me the difference first.
So, the workout session was literally at a workout facility. So you go to Exos and you do like your plyometrics, your field work, your explosion work, weight room work, and then you would condition. That was like an hour workout. That was like fast tempo, constant competition. That was great because you do like all these, change of direction drills and you were racing guys. So like it brought in, brought up the intensity. You go do that by yourself. Yeah, you can be intense, but your adrenaline raises. At least mine does when there's competition. So, it can fuck up your technique, but you're going to be going hard. No. So, we would play against each other here and there, but like it was different. In the off season, we were all there selfishly to get better. So like you could put it away. There was
truths.
Yeah. But like there was also, there are times where guys would compete and guys would get up in each other's faces. Like that's anytime you have fucking bunch of high strung fucking professional athletes, we were all competitors. So yeah, there would be shit talking in the weight room. like the weight and the workout shit. Usually our routes, not really. It was kind of like doing infield, showing off.
Gotcha.
You know, like when you used to do infield baseball, and that was your way to kind of swag out and show people your glove work.
The horses before the Kentucky Derby to trot around.
Yeah. So like
just
that
get
was
the ball
like,
over to first.
you know, so guys would naturally compete through how they ran their route and the smoothness of how they cut, or their explosion in and out of a break, or their selling of a double move route. Like that was their way of like competing. We didn't have many one-on-ones. Like I think now I see one-on-ones. It was there really just for conditioning and like route technique. You know what I mean?
Do you ever learn anything about like another player from those sessions that you brought back into the New England? Be like, hey, you know what? Carson Palmer, take a look at this, or this is this, or are you just, that's not really the mentality that goes into those?
You talk with guys, but you also like, you wouldn't tell them everything.
Yeah.
If they were telling you everything, that's on them. This ain't no patient client confidentiality.
Amen.
You
Keep
tell
your
me
enemies
something
close.
that I think is going to help our team.
So if you're planning,
Hey, coach. Hey, he said this. We got to do this. It's
Amen,
copycat
man.
league, bro.
You ain't got no Hippocratic oath. Come
Plus,
on
you're
now.
at the point, like, it doesn't matter.
yeah. What are you actually going to learn in that moment that's actually going to go to the next level?
You would take little things like on how guys like cut in and out of breaks, or how, you know, they would sell something, you know, head, shoulder movements, you know, like that's the kind of shit you would take, stacking the ball, tracking the ball, those types of things.
Was there ever a session earlier in your career, excluding Tom, that you were in one of those sessions and you're kind of the slapdick, and some like hot shot, like big swinging dick guy was there that you're like, oh my God, like Randy Moss or Jerry Rice is here or something like that you got to learn a little bit from early in your career?
There's one time I think T.O. showed up to one of those UCLA things. And, you know, yeah, I was a slapdick at that time, but I went 100 miles an hour always. I would look at them in awe, but you're in a point where you're like, you're still working.
Right.
Like that's how I did. But you'd watch.
Learn stuff.
T.O. used to go a lot to those. TJ used to go. They were like the bigger name guys, like that. The more established guys. There were young guys that were balling that were there. But
What was it like watching T.O. in person? Just his like freakish like body size, but speed combined. Just like
he was a little older.
Yeah.
But I mean, he looked the part.
He still looks apart.
Yeah. I mean, he's a freak.
Yeah. He's a freak.
He's a freak. He's a specimen.
I got two for you here, Jules. Say you're out, paint the picture here. Not in your home city. You're not in Boston. Maybe Miami somewhere. Out for a night out. You look across the bar. You see a dude you battled. You don't know him. Maybe a jet. Maybe a rival. You battled with this guy. You look across the bar. You lock eyes. Then a conversation starts and you kind of bury the hatchet and break bread with each other. Does that ever happen?
I wouldn't say break bread, but you know, there's been
lack of a better term. Sorry.
There's been a few times where you see a guy that, you know,
You're not you run into him out somewhere.
Yeah. And you love competing against you.
Yeah. Okay. I feel you. Keep it moving. Type beat.
Keep moving.
Yeah. I feel that. And then
people looked at us differently though.
Yeah. I was going to say
They're
it's
beating
probably
the shit out of everyone. You know what I mean? Like you go to the Derby, you see the other teams there. We always went after like we won a Super Bowl and stuff.
Yeah.
People looked at us probably like we were arrogant assholes a little bit.
Hey, hate us because they ain't us.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel that. And then my other one.
But I used to be around a lot of the Bronco guys because I was with I used to train with TJ Ward, and we battled against each other.
I was gonna say that was a rivalry.
It was always fun. It was always fun to just talk shit.
I feel that.
But there was I always respected guys that worked their ass off in the off season. So if I didn't like you, but I saw you working, I liked you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't knock the hustle.
You can't knock hustle. You can't knock guys that are trying to get better.
We talked a little bit earlier about the beauty of social media with helping guys stay in touch and connecting, and dudes you may have never crossed paths with, just being able to hit them up with the click of a button. Have you ever gotten one of those guys giving you, I like your game type vibe that like really meant something, or it made your eyes light up when you got that message? Like it came out of the blue.
Not really, but
I feel you.
You know, like Brandon Marshall. when I first started working with him, it kind of blew my mind how like I don't know if he was fluffing me, but he'd be like, Jules, I love your game. You're so like Brandon Marshall always used to hype me up.
The original Glazer, I like it.
He knew how to charm me.
Nice. I like that.
He
That's a
was
good
just
teammate.
buttering
Well, he's
me
also
up.
that prototypical like number one wide receiver kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
And did it for a long time.
Dude, at 31, I think he had like 100 and something catches.
Pro Bowl legend.
He was a monster. People forget about, it sucks that he never played in a playoff game because he had such an elite career. He had a crazy career.
That's insane.
And like he did it with the quarterbacks that were throwing it to him pretty
Yeah.
consistently. He's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a large man.
Oh yeah.
B. Marsh.
B. Marsh is
Both in size and personality.
it is.
But I think it's
He's a
also
specimen.
even more like with the players and friendships and stuff now, it's to an all-time high now.
Yeah, it's almost too much. Like you said,
Yeah, it's almost
it's
too
too
much.
kiki.
It's a little too kiki.
I'm with you. I don't like seeing. It's weird to see as a fan. I want you to hate each like.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's kind of, we have a responsibility, man. Keep it like WWE. You guys could be boys in the off season and stuff, but like at least like we got to act like we hate each other.
Yeah, I don't keep up the illusion. You
And
can't have
people that say you don't hate anything. Well, you ain't competing right then.
you can't have the Iron Sheik and the Hulk traveling to the event together. Everybody in the world sees them. The jig is up.
It's up.
I'm with you.
Randy,
Amen.
Macho Man Randy Savage and fucking Andre the Giant didn't like each other, but
No.
they also showed that they didn't like each other in the ring either.
Amen.
I don't know where that. Yeah, I just saw that.
That was a great one.
yeah.
So great segment. That was awesome.
That was
Always
awesome.
insightful. Audience, more comments, voicemails of in-depth things you wanted to find out about the life of a professional athlete. Please let us know. The segment's awesome.
The hockey guys. You just got, I went and visited one of my boys in Toronto, JPR and Sebia. He was a catcher, took BP with them out there and ended up linking up with Sagan and the hockey guy. Those hockey guys. It's fucking, they're a different breed. PK Subban. Like I hung out with him. Like these guys, like they can go drink and then go like perform at a high level.
It's insane.
Well,
They're Bill Diffie.
A lot of them have been doing like the professional routine when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. Not being at home, on the road all the time, practice and school and this and always like learning it. And then
Yeah.
they become pros at being pros early as an
That's a
early
great
age.
way to put it.
Yeah.
They're pro.
And maybe just because I'm back in Boston and my homerism is coming out. But what other city is a NBA champion and 2 Super Bowl champions hood sliding out in LA together after years and years? What else? Who else is doing that? Nobody but Boston, baby.
Oh, Paul. I see him at work all the time. I say, Paul, we can't hang out. Paul, we can't hang out. Yeah. Last time we hung out, Bill took my captain away.
I'm sorry.
Wait, really?
Still too soon.
And if you want to know more about that story, there's 18 other episodes you can refer to get the ending.
Yeah, we're not getting into it again. And that was the Chill Zone. Thanks to our favorite beer, Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door. Visit CoorsLight.com/GWN and celebrate responsibly, guys. Those Blue Mountains.
Keep 'em blue, baby.
Well, what a game. What a start off to a awesome, and hopefully continually awesome career for Coach Mazzulla. Awesome to get to pick his brain and understand him a little, even though I don't think we quite understand him yet.
I don't think you might
Ever.
never understand.
Peeling
Yeah.
back layers, baby.
I like that layer though.
I like that a lot.
That onion. That's a good
I
onion.
like that onion, baby.
I like that onion. That's been another episode of Games with Names. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Comment a game you want us to do, and remember,
Rate and review.
and leave us 5-star review on Spotify while you're there. You know what that reminds me of when you do that? I've been watching the Pee Wee Herman
Oh,
documentary.
incredible.
It's very good. I
Incredible.
loved Pee Wee Herman as a kid.
Me too.
And that gives me Pee Wee vibes when you do that.
Now that you say it, I'm going to think that every time. You're right. You're spot on.
It's Pee Wee vibes.
Producer Leah, she
were
has
spot
some
on.
connections. She's friends with one of the producers of that. She's been talking about it for a year.
Love Pee Wee. R.I.P.
R.I.P. for
R.I.P.
real.
Remember to follow Games with Names on YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Snapchat. Leave a comment on the YouTube full episode, and we'll read the best ones in the future. Leave a message on the old hotline at 424-291-2290. And we'll see you guys next week. Games with Names, a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.